Are we here? Are we here? Is it working? Somebody reply to the chat and let me know it's working. Because it looks the same to me.
No, it's working.
It's working. Holy cow. Okay. You love to see it. Gang, drop something in the chat. Let me know you're out there. That was a struggle. Sorry about those technical difficulties. You know, YouTube has a thing to just set it up and it's supposed to just work, but it didn't just work. I updated Chrome. There we go. We got some comments there. There's Sean O'Reilly. There's my Russian. All right. So let's get this party started after all those early technical difficulties. So hopefully some of you here on the stream have already downloaded the PageMotor software and are messing with that on your server right now. So I want to talk obviously a little bit about PageMotor and show some things. I think I can share my desktop and take you guys through some of this stuff. But what I really want to talk about today is the future of the website economy. And so we'll go through how it has worked. And then I'm going to try and paint this picture for you about how it is going to work in the future. All right. So before we do that, I just want to tell my origin story on the pain of website creation real quick, because I think it's still relevant today, even though I went through this stuff 20 years ago. It's still relevant today, and that just blows my mind. You would think that some of these problems would be paved over and smoothed out, and everything would be great here in 2025, and that is just not the case. So here it is. Here's the origin story I went through. So back in 2005, I wanted to build a website. And I had seen some cool blogs and stuff out there, and I was like, I want to do that for myself. So I bought a domain, and naively, I thought that buying a domain was buying a website. I didn't really realize it's just the name, and then you have to do a whole bunch of other stuff, connect a whole bunch of things to get a website to work. So that's the first pain point. I bought the domain. I'm like, where's my website? There is no website. Okay. So that's that. If you're just a normie who wants a website, it's a shocking thing. Like, oh crap, I need more than just this. So the next thing you got to do is you got to have that domain pointing to a computer that is always connected to the internet. We call this a server. And to get a server, you have to work with a web host. So you're going to pay some monthly fee to have access to one of these servers where you can put the files that represent your website, which is really the next step. So you get the server, you've got the domain, you got that stuff connected. You still don't have a website until you have files on the server or software on the server that creates the website. So that's 3 steps right there. And you've gone to 3 different places. You went to the registrar to get the domain. You went to a separate entity, the web host, to get your hosting. And then you went to a third-party provider to get software to run your website, presumably something like WordPress in the past. That stinks. That stinks. So obviously, hosting companies over the years have tried to kind of pave over this, like these roads going everywhere. So they offer domain name registration. So at least you're getting some stuff in one place. And then they offer like one-click installation of something like WordPress. So you're getting all 3 of these items now in one place at your web host. But even though hosting companies have filled in those gaps, sort of, I would rather not buy my domain at a web host. I'd still rather buy it at a place like GoDaddy or Namecheap or something like this and connect it. There's various reasons for that. DNS controls, better control over everything. Like that's their wheelhouse. So they do this better than a host who's going to, just try and patch this thing up for you. But, you get all those things. And then if you're really having a real website, like a business, and you need this website to work and do something unique or something special for your business, well, then you've got a whole new can of worms. It's not good enough just to have WordPress. Now you've got to have these pieces of your website, and they've all got to be put together to make your website work and do what it's supposed to do. If you have e-commerce, my God, you've probably experienced the pain if you've ever dealt with this. The way it works right now is that most people will use an agency, a development agency, a design development agency. Usually it's all under one roof. And they build out the website for them. This is not cheap, gang. This is not cheap at all. It is an expensive process. And unfortunately, with the way the ecosystem has evolved over the last 20 years, it is an inefficient process. But my biggest beef with the whole thing, I have a few, I'll spell them out. But my biggest beef with the whole thing is that the end results aren't very good. They aren't very good. There's a joke that's been relevant for the last 20 years, and that is that most WordPress websites, for e-commerce and everything else, they're held together with rusty nails and duct tape. And everybody knows it's true. It's it's a sad state of affairs that we're 20 years deep in this thing, and the rusty nails and duct tape moniker still applies. It's a joke. Any complex e-commerce integration, if you get an agency to do it, you're talking at like 20 grand minimum to get in the door. I've seen tons of contracts that are six figures, $100,000 and up to have a reasonably functional website built that can actually bring in some revenue. It's unreal. So that pain, that whole process, it's so inefficient. You're going all these different places. And then if you want to build anything significant, you got this really high bar for entry. Price point wise, like that's going to nuke tons of potential ideas and projects right out of the gate. And a lot of people don't care about this. A lot of agencies like, yeah, that's right. I only want to work with the high dollar clients. Like, I get it. But if we just scale this out, we look at the larger picture, the internet has been getting smaller for the past 20 years. 20 years ago, anybody could start up a basic blog and then, create some crosstalk and some community stuff. They get people commenting. You build an audience in a way that's very cheap and could be leveraged for business. And it worked. Like, this was a pretty good system, really. Now, obviously things change, but the way they've changed is that the price has gone up, and the ability for people to do it on their own or to do stuff on a smaller budget and do smaller scale projects, that has continued to erode. And it's basically going to disappear. It basically already has disappeared, because you can't really build an audience just through a blog or something anymore. Nobody even does this. Blogs are dead. Let's be honest. Blogs are dead. And even if you have a website, there's no guarantee you're actually going to get visitors and meaningful traffic to that website. Search is dead. Organic SEO is dead. We have to be honest about these things. Blogs are dead. Organic SEO is dead. Like, I used to get thousands of visitors a month to DIYthemes.com through Google traffic. Those converted into something like, $1,400 in sales per day for a very long time. And then any marketing efforts I did on top of that produced even more sales. So that was the way it worked then with audience building and all that stuff. But it doesn't work that way now. And so don't you see like these like lines working against one another? You have a higher price for entry now, but the effectiveness of your website is even less. Like the marketing is more important than ever before. Like, if you don't have marketing initiatives, you don't have a business, which is kind of the way all business has always been. Like, as markets mature, it always ends up here. It's a marketing and advertising game. It's not a product game, really. It's not just a being in the arena game. It's like you have to be super visible, and then it's highly competitive in the form of marketing and advertising. So I don't like that trend line, those various trend lines that are all working together to kind of squeeze out everybody and also make it more expensive to get crappier results. Like, this sucks. Like, come on, this situation stinks. So part of the reason that PageMotor is coming into existence is to push back on this, because the way everything works, it's all shoddy and it's all thrown together with rusty nails and duct tape. That means it's very inefficient. That means it's very hard to build on. That means it requires specialists who know all the warts and can work around those enough to deliver something that actually works. But the problem is, the longer we do that, we're building up all this technical debt, all this mess, all this trash. We're just building on this massive pile of trash at this point. So it's harder for everybody. It costs everybody way more money, and everybody's results stink by and large. The people who are having good results are people who are really good at marketing. And increasingly, being good at marketing doesn't mean like paying for ads and stuff like this. It doesn't mean doing PPC on Google, none of that. It means having an influencer type presence. It means having a very active social media presence where you can drive people to particular directions. Say, hey, go look at this. Hey, check this out. Oh, this is the kind of thing you got to be doing. Those people, the people doing that, are the ones who are successful in the current website economy. And that element's not going away. So no matter what you do, whether PageMotor exists or not, to actually be successful, you kind of have to have some sort of a meaningful social media presence to build an audience, to speak to that audience, and to drive them in the directions you want them to go. But what PageMotor is going to do that is unique and that helps solve this grossly inefficient problem of the website economy that we've been in is that the different steps that I spoke about, the hosting being here, the registrar being over here, the agencies and their high price tags, and the need for e-commerce and all this stuff. Like, you need this stuff, but to get it, you're going to have to pay this much. And even if you get it, you may not be successful. Like, that is nuking potential outcomes. So PageMotor is bringing these outcomes back into the realm of possibility by lowering the costs at every point on the journey. Okay, so let's go through those real quick. As far as hosts are concerned, web hosts, if there's anyone on here that's affiliated with a web host or works with them or anything like that, really should be listening up here, because what PageMotor can do that nothing else can do, has done, or will do, is it can lower the energy requirements and the costs of hosting any website, massively lower them in terms of sheer processing power. Not much energy is needed to deliver a PageMotor site because the platform is super, super freaking efficient. It's super tight. I just delivered the PageMotor beta this morning. The download file for that thing is 1.4 megabytes. This thing already does most of what the core of WordPress does. And it even has way greater functionality in the area of like themes and stuff, which I'll go through in just a little bit. I've done this on a bunch of previous videos. I'll give us a quick run through of this in a moment. But it already does what WordPress does, but it's only 1.4 megabytes. You can install this on your server. You can drag it over with an FTP client, and it will be installed in under 1 minute, in really just a few seconds. Okay, so you can set it up, boom, you're already done. And then when all pages are rendering, they're rendering so much faster than anything else you've ever used. It's almost like having static files on a server. It is almost that fast. For a dynamically generated website that is data-driven, that is super robust and dynamic and can do a bunch of different things, which is what PageMotor does. That's what WordPress does. For a system like that, PageMotor is so lightweight and so fast, it will blow your mind. Like I said, I'll do a little screen share here in a moment, and I'll click around. You will not believe how freaking fast it is. The admin is super fast. The front end is super fast. Everything about it is super fast because it is built the right way. So huge incentive for web hosts to do this. If you have 100 sites running WordPress and you have 100 sites running PageMotor, the 100 sites running PageMotor are going to take up a fraction of the energy costs that it takes to run those WordPress websites. And then that has downstream effects like support issues, general questions. Like, it's way easier to use PageMotor than it is to use WordPress. And I'm going to showcase this in just a moment. Like, just like for a basic user, it's so much easier. And I really want to delve into this topic in a little bit. So we've got the web host. We see the efficiency there. There's huge gains to be had. The next step is on this connecting of everything, the integration of everything to build a website that actually does something useful. This is huge. This is the step of the economy that I want to change the most with PageMotor, and that is going to change. And I'll explain how. Oh, Sam here says that the WordPress zipped download file is 26.6 megabytes. PageMotor is 1.4 megabytes. A massive, massive difference to do essentially the same thing, except in a more delightful and pleasant way. Okay, anyway, so back to this developer agency thing and getting complex websites built. So I want you to imagine. So it's very easy to imagine how the economy works now. You want something done. You figure out which plugins and stuff you're going to need. You engage an agency to do this for you, and they put it all together. And there's this big back and forth, and it takes however long it takes. Maybe it takes weeks. Maybe it takes months. Who knows? Complex undertakings can be a big deal, and there's lots of warts along the way. Now, I want you to imagine this future that PageMotor is bringing into view for us. Instead of having to engage an agency, you will be engaging an AI bot that knows how PageMotor works. And you'll say, hey, I want to do this kind of website. I want this functionality, like maybe some e-commerce thing for like you're going to build a community and you want people to pay to be a part of the community. And then once they're in, they have access to protected pages on your website, maybe protected PDF downloads, like special white papers or something, maybe a zip file, who knows? It could be anything like that. You could even have protected access to a connected set of forums that you want people to be able to go into and chat and all this stuff, something like that. So that I call that an information product e-commerce website. So you tell the chatbot that you want this, and these are your requirements or whatever. The chatbot knows how PageMotor works. The PageMotor architecture is such that the chatbot will be able to create the plugins you need, or it can use existing plugins that exist within the ecosystem, and then it can build the integration for you. So this is something new, something that you may not be accustomed to, but like with PageMotor, instead of with WordPress, if you were going to do these integrations, you usually have like a custom functions file that patches everything together. It says, okay, grab this plugin from over here, connect this to the theme, do all this stuff. With PageMotor, everything's a plugin. Everything is a plugin. So not only are you're adding the e-commerce plugin, you've added that to your site. Maybe you add something called the PageMotor Cards plugin to help your display products on your screen or something like this. You can also, the integration itself can live inside a plugin. So the AI chatbot will create this integration plugin that is customized for your site that connects the exact pieces that you need and have. And not only can it do that, it can, the way PageMotor is built, all these third-party components, these plugins that you add on to do whatever, they can integrate with your theme's design in a way that is not possible with WordPress. So they can actually tuck their elements into the design so that when you start it up, when it's all loaded up, the plugins that you've added will be incorporated into your design, totally incorporated into your branding. Your fonts will be used, all the spacing, all the pages will be kind of the same. They all look the same. This is not the case with WordPress right now, and it's a big problem. So you add something like MemberPress, which is an e-commerce plugin, to your WordPress website. They do something called Ready Launch Mode. Ready Launch Mode makes it so that whenever somebody interfaces with the MemberPress parts of your website, they look totally different from the rest of your website. You don't have any of your original branding, none of your colors, none of your design, nothing on those pages, like account pages, viewing product pages, checkout pages. All that stuff is a design that MemberPress, a generic design that MemberPress adds to your website because it is too much trouble. And indeed, it's impossible to integrate cleanly with your theme because there's a litany of themes out there. There's a billion different themes. They all do stuff differently. It just doesn't work. So that means that you engage an agency and you're paying a huge chunk of what you're paying them is simply to integrate the MemberPress stuff into your design so you can have a professional display. Like I want my products displayed within the context of my existing design, which I already paid a lot for. Like I don't want this separate, like jarring experience of, oh, now it's a MemberPress page over here. That is funky. That is Bush League. That is not the way we're going to live. We're not living that way. I won't allow it. I don't accept it. So PageMotor, though, will be able to integrate all this stuff together in seconds. You'll go to the product pages, it'll be part of your design. You'll go to the account pages, it'll be integrated into your design. Your checkout pages, the whole bit. All your fonts, color, sizing, spacing, all that stuff will be respected. And the AI will have just done it. So here's a specific situation I foresee that I think like if I'm just a novice user, this looks like a dream scenario. Here it is. So I get my hosting from some company, okay, from webhost.com. When I go to webhost.com to that dashboard, I can access the AI concierge right there to build my website. Like this is the most natural place to do it. I'm sorry. This is the most natural place to get anything for your website. I've done the one-click install. Now I say, okay, now I want to build this kind of website. So I use their AI agent, their AI concierge to build this thing with the specifications I set. Maybe it cost me $1,400 or something like that. These hosts should be salivating over this possibility. And boom, I've got my guaranteed solution right there. I've paid for this thing. The AI agent has spun it up for me, and it just works. And what's amazing though is I've had unique requirements for this. There's idiosyncrasies about everybody's freaking website. Nothing's exactly the same. And so now I've been able to spool that up right there with my host. It's a one-stop shop for all the stuff I need for my website. Like, this is really how that economy needs to work. The hosts are really the liaison for all this stuff. It should go through them. It's the most natural place for this. So the way I see it, there's tremendous growth ahead for hosting companies that can get this right. Because this is absolutely the most natural place for any customer to interface with this kind of thing. I know tons of businesses that have website initiatives. I don't know tons of businesses that really have any deftness or aptitude for dealing with agencies, developers, and actually getting this pulled off in a way that works. I don't know anyone who can do that, but I know lots of people who can interface with a host, deal with an AI chatbot, and get something resembling the solution that they're after. And then you can pay somebody to refine that on the end if it's not good enough. But I'm telling you, the solutions are going to be very good and very tight, way more optimized and way better than anything else you've ever seen. I promise you that. That is an easily attainable goal from where we are right now. Okay, so that's my vision for the future that PageMotor is going to make possible. Everybody's talking about what AI is going to be able to do or can do and all this stuff. It's nonsense. It's not about what AI might be able to do. We have to think about what are we actually working with, and how can we get to these outcomes that we want. And so I've been meaning to do a video about this, but there's a really important point I want to make. Everybody is looking at AI the wrong way. They're looking at it the wrong way. We are asking, what can AI do for us? What can it eliminate? What pain can it eliminate from my process flows? What employees can it help me get rid of? That is looking at AI the wrong way. If we want to get to a magical place where AI is super powerful and super smart and doing things for us that we can hardly believe, rapid prototyping of things that you just can't even imagine right now, here is what we must say. We must flip that relationship. We must ask, what can I provide for the AI that will elevate it to the point where it can do these magical things for me and do them super well, better than any human's going to be able to do? What can I provide for AI that can help us get there? That is the actual question we must be asking. There's reasons why we're not asking that at large scale, and that's because it brings up some very uncomfortable realities. The uncomfortable realities that it brings up is this. That question, if we say, what can I provide for AI that will really give it the leverage to do awesome things? That shines a negative light on all of our existing systems. If our existing systems are crap, AI can only produce crap. The output's only ever going to be as good as the input. That's the problem. Our input is trash, and therefore our output is trash. So we must elevate our input, what we give to AI. Say, AI, hey, you got this PageMotor. You can work with this. It's super patternized. You can build these plugins really easily. You can make sure they only run in the right places. You can make sure that they are integrating with the right components. Like, it's a no-brainer. You can patch this stuff up. It's all connected. Here's how to do it. I know that with the way PageMotor works and the way the plugin architecture and all this stuff connects together and the way the themes are built, the designs work and all that stuff, PageMotor AI is going to be able to do incredible things because the quality of the input is so high. PageMotor only asks you to provide an array of data in various, so there's 30 different ways to do this, but in each area, you're only giving it an array of data, basically telling it, hey, here's what's unique about my situation. And it says, oh, all right, I see what you're doing here, gang. I got you. Let's put all this stuff in the right places, and it all just works. And AI can do that. And AI can easily define an array of data saying, okay, here's what's unique about this operating case. It can easily do that. Computers are pattern recognition machines. They are pattern machines. And AI, if you give it a structure that says, hey, operate within these patterns and constraints, it's going to crush it. But WordPress doesn't have that. It's not just about WordPress, but I mean, this is a great example that everybody can relate to. WordPress does not have, it's not patternized. It's an idiosyncratic mess. You could use a hook over here. Oh, but maybe that hook doesn't exist in this particular theme. Or you could use a filter over here. Oh, but maybe the timing of that filter doesn't work with the way everything else fits together. Oh, you could also do it this way. Like, that's nonsense. Nonsense. PageMotor has predefined pathways for everything you'd ever want to do. It accepts information in the form of an array of unique data that describes your specific situation, and there's lots of constraints on that depending on where you're operating. And any AI could be trained to do this in just a matter of days. And really, if somebody was like incredibly, insane and dedicated, really just a matter of hours. So that is coming. This reality is coming. PageMotor will deliver this reality to you within the next 6 months to a year, maybe sooner. That is an attainable goal. This is not like, what can AI maybe do for us? This is real. PageMotor can make this a reality because the whole thing is so patternized. It's so clean. It's so good. It works. It speaks the language that computers speak. Indeed, it speaks the actual language of the universe. And AI is going to be able to crush with this. All right. So I've got a few questions here in the chat. I'm going to read these real quick. Let's see. Ken says, can you demonstrate the AI workflow? Can you clarify the exact mechanism? Are we interacting with a built-in PageMotor tool, an API layer for an LLM, or a workflow with tool like ChatGPT or Claude? That is a great question. So I cannot demonstrate the AI workflow yet because I haven't done any of it, but I can show you the parts, and it's going to be something like, so here's how I imagine it. I will probably have token relationships with, I'll see which one works best. We'll say Claude for now. I'll have some tokens with Claude. And then you'll be able to say within the PageMotor admin, for example, maybe it'll work on a host, maybe it'll work on a third-party site, maybe it'll work on the PageMotor site. I don't know yet. But bottom line is, you'll go somewhere, maybe in the PageMotor admin, maybe on my site, whatever, and you'll be able to say, hey, I want to build this kind of site, and it's going to spit out the components for you to download with a set of instructions. Okay, put this here. And then, go in the admin, activate this, and you'll be good to go. It'll be something like that. And, I've shown some of the architectural stuff. I'll briefly do that here in a moment to show okay, this is exactly what the AI will be doing. It's not rocket science at all. And you'll be able to kind of see the way these pieces will eventually fit together. So it is a third-party overlay. It's like an LLM. We'll be using the LLM, which has pretty extensive knowledge about the way these things work, and they can be trained to learn all about a code base very quickly. They just need access to the source files, and then it's pretty much immediate. And then it'll be off to the races. Once a bot is trained a little bit, okay, here's exactly the constraints. Here's the PageMotor docs you need to reference to know what to do. It's gonna be primo. I can even seed it with some example files and stuff like that. I mean, all that stuff already exists. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we got some more stuff there. No questions. So I want to go into, let me just show you the way the admin works and how pleasant this experience is versus something like WordPress, which in my view, okay, back it up. One thing I like to do that I feel like the WordPress community is really getting away from, I like to see things through the eyes of a novice user or somebody at a business who's been tasked with the challenge of updating content on a website. I always like to go back to that. These are the people that are using the software. This is where a lot of the pain comes from. What is their experience? What's the reality for them? And it's disturbing to me because increasingly the WordPress community, as time has gone on, it used to be kind of everybody. In the last 7-8 years, it's really become only the people that do development and agency work or that have remained really close to the platform. And so you have an echo chamber that has formed, and people don't really, not really getting outside the echo chamber. What is real in the echo chamber has become the reality of WordPress, and it's not serving everybody who uses the platform at all. Increasingly, it's serving fewer and fewer people. That's why Gutenberg got pushed through, even though everybody hated it. So the prevailing sentiment, like the block editor, Gutenberg, the block editor, is a disaster. For a novice user, this is terrible. My basic thesis is that editing the content of your website should be as simple as editing a Word document. Everyone can do this, okay? Everyone has that skill. Everyone's developed that skill pretty much. If you're on internet, you know how to do this. But not everyone has the skills to work with a block editor. There's a bunch of options. There's a whole bunch of things to click. There's like all these separations and breaks. It's not like a clean white page of content. You just type and maybe format some stuff and off you go. It should be that easy, but it is not. It is not. Developers and agencies have just swallowed this pill whole. And they're like, oh, yeah, we love this because we can provide this leverage and that leverage. And it's like, well, what happens when, Susie over here has to update the page on the website? She has no freaking clue what's going on inside that editor. She touches the wrong thing. She might break one of the things you've built for the way that this goofy, idiosyncratic website works. Like, okay, I'm glad the agency was able to do these complex things and deliver a hero box at the top of the homepage with an opt-in in it by using blocks, which it's not even necessary to do this. There's a million different ways to do it. You can just serve it with PHP and off you go. But no, we have to use this complicated ass block editor to do this. And now poor Susie can't edit the freaking website because she's afraid she's going to break stuff. And it's confusing. This sucks. Can't I just type an email? Can it be simple? If you're dealing with WordPress, the answer is no. It can't be simple. They're not listening to you. They don't care. They don't care about this part of the user experience. It's brutal. It's got to be better. Let's take a look at a better experience. Let's see how this screen sharing works. Let's see. We can do this. This might work. Let's share this. So you guys. So that's the PageMotor forums. We're going to go. So here's the PageMotor admin. Oh, wait. Share this tab instead. We're going to share this. All right. So we are inside the PageMotor admin. Very simple, very clean. You got a link over here to view your site. Let's do that real quick. Oh, look at that. Here's our website. No big deal. We're going to go back over here. We're going to go back to the admin. So you don't have much you can do. You've got things you add to your website, the things that run it. We got plugins. We got themes. I've got this admin set up to show everything. I could actually simplify it a little bit. Get rid of some of the admin things. So now we've got just the basics. If you install PageMotor today, this is what you're going to see. You've got some simple site settings, the title of your website, nothing too crazy, not much to set up. And then you got your content. This is the main thing of your website, the content. Unlike WordPress. So in WordPress, if you set up a homepage, you have to actually go into your settings. You have to change the way your website works. You have to change it from a blog into what is called a static website and set up a static homepage. And then if you've created a bunch of pages, you go edit your pages and you have to look through this long list of pages to find the one that's marked front page out here to the side in bold letters. That's ridiculous. That's the definition of retrofitting something into a system. It wasn't designed this way at all. We just kind of fit this in here and hopefully this works for everybody. Well, that stinks. The homepage is a very distinct content type on your website. In PageMotor, it has its own distinct content type where you can edit the homepage. You click on home, here's the homepage. You give it a title. We got some content in here, and by God, this is the content of the homepage. What do you know? Revolutionary stuff, I know. Stay with me. We've also got pages. Pages are a core content type on your website. I'll go into these in a second, but we've also got a 404 page. It's also a core content type in your website. WordPress has never made any provisions at all for a 404 page on your website. It's crazy. Every site should have a little branded 404 page. It's not that big a deal, but we got it with PageMotor. We can go in here. Hey, got a 404 page. We got some content. We got a link back to the homepage. It just works. It just works. So we got the 4, and then we've got in this this little installation, indeed in the PageMotor beta, we also have something called modular content, which does not totally work yet, but you can actually create some modular content. I could create a new piece. I could call it my new modular content, and maybe this is an email opt-in form. Use your imagination. And we'll make it a call out so it looks like it's actually something. And then we can save this, okay? But what is unique? So if we go look at the content types, homepage, it clearly is a page on your website. It has what we would call a URL endpoint. What this means is when somebody goes to yoursite.com, that's URL endpoint, this page shows up. Pages work the same way. I've got this page here. It's about. So that way, when anyone goes to yoursite.com/about, this page is what appears. Pretty basic stuff. So now we go back over here. So pages have URL endpoints. The 404 page kind of has a URL endpoint. It will display if a user goes to a URL on your website that is not there. If that URL is not found, then the 404 page content will display. Modular content is unique because it does not have a URL endpoint. This is content that you might want to include on other pages of your site or in other locations on your site, but it does not have a URL endpoint. So it's something you're going to include elsewhere, but you can create it here, such as an opt-in form. It can be a pitch for a product that you have. Use your imagination here. It can be anything like that. It can be an author bio, whatever. And then, so you create it here, and then you would go into a different piece of content, such as a page, and then incorporate the modular content. Now, there's going to be a button that says modular content. You'll click on that. You'll choose the piece of modular content, and it will insert it at the caret within the editor. Something like this. That's how it's going to work, I think. So that will be a way to include your modular content. And there's also a different way to do that. Kind of getting ahead of myself here, but you can go into the theme and the theme editor, and then we could deploy a modular content box. And in the future, you'll be able to select what piece of modular content you want to display in this location. We could drag this over, and we could even put that at the very top of the homepage or something. And this is the home template. But we could add this here, save the template, and then the modular content that you've specified would display in this particular output location. Pretty cool. So anyhow, these are basic content types that are registered to any new PageMotor environment. And it just makes sense. Like, this is a real clean, easy way to access the stuff that you like. Okay, this is a page. I know where to go. Pages. It's homepage. Know where to go. 404 page. Boom. Modular content. Boom. It's all very simple and straightforward. Like, this is a clear and clean expression of these concepts that exist in WordPress. In WordPress, this equivalent concept is known as custom post types. Custom post types are actually a really good idea. They make a ton of sense. Every development agency uses custom post types almost exclusively now because blogs are dead, so nobody uses posts. So they're all using custom post types to build these complex site environments for people. And it's a good idea, but the way WordPress deals with it is super wonky, and where the stuff goes in the admin and stuff. Like with PageMotor, it's all just automatic. I could create a new plugin right now, register a new content type, and it would give me a way to manage that content type right here on this page, assuming the content type had the specifications necessary to get it to land here, to end up on this page. Because there's various ways to do it. You can register some content types that are invisible. The admin, this is too much information, but we're here, what the heck. The admin, for example, has a bunch of content types to generate the pages of the admin. This is the admin home screen. If you go to the theme settings, this is the theme UI home, which is a content type that's been registered for the admin specifically. And then each individual page within here, the design options, this is also a theme UI content type. But of course, we don't see these things. So if I were to turn on the admin management, we could go here and look at our admin content. We wouldn't actually see those content types being editable here because it would screw up the whole admin if we were able to mess with them or change them in any way. So they're not visible here because if you were, like I said, you can only cause destruction with that. There's no reason to be able to edit them here. So they are not visible. So those are content types that are, they're different. They're invisible. They're registered specifically so the admin can do its thing. All right. So we saw a little glimpse of the theme editor. This is how you edit and create your templates. It's a drag and drop editor. It's got you can add an HTML container. You can add something called a text box. I mean, it's real basic. It's real basic. Then you got some specific pieces of output, like if you want your site title or whatever. And then you just build your templates this way. You build one, you can go to another one, copy from an existing template so you don't have to redo the same work over and over. Then you just go in and make some little changes. But anyway, this stuff's already done for you. You're not going to be messing with this, but hardcore developers are going to mess with this if they're doing integrations for people or that kind of thing. This is the kind of stuff that the AI chatbot will eventually be manipulating a little bit to get the results we want. But the whole thing's going to be designed so that you really need to do minimal input here. This is kind of a set it once and forget it proposition. So me, the developer of this theme, I set all these templates up once, and if they're set up right, they probably won't need to be messed with again to do pretty much anything you'd want. Let's see. So yeah, we got the content editor. The content editor is really great, guys. It's really, really great. It is based off TinyMCE, which is the same thing that's used in WordPress, but it's like the newest version of it, and it uses the updated new UI, and it's just freaking great. Like if we go to the homepage, I actually did some pretty cool stuff on that using these advanced things called bleeds that go edge to edge in the editing screen, but also on the eventual page if we look at it. So we'll do that. We'll go to the homepage here and we can see that this bleed element goes edge to edge in the browser. So we're getting these, it's like a hero section, but I did it right there in the editor. It took zero effort to do this. We got a drop cap. We got things like call outs. We got buttons. I mean, you can do all this stuff from the editor. It's super, super easy. But like I said, creating a beautiful web page should be as easy as formatting a Word document. And here it is. It works that way in PageMotor. And, one thing, this is just an aside for me, but, I've been working with word processors since 1988. And one thing that's always bummed me out is like there's minimal formatting. Like you can change some stuff. You can kind of make like, if you really know what you're doing, you can make like, you can shove an image over to the side, wrap text around it. You can create a little, call out box or something like this, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to do. And it's limited. Like you can't do beautiful things very easily with a word processor. That stinks. That's garbage. With PageMotor, you've got this editor that finally, after 37 years, you can make something that's beautiful right there in the editor itself. You can do all these cool formatting things that you've seen in books or on pages that you liked in the past. You can do all of that stuff from the comfort of the editor and make beautiful pages. You don't need some crazy design thing or some page builder to do most of the stuff you want to do. And like I said, anything else you'd want to do, there's going to be a plugin ecosystem here. Like, if you want a hero box with an opt-in or something like that, we'll have that. It's going to be really easy to build. I'm going to be playing with that, trying to get AI to build some of these things just to see, get a chuckle out of that and see how that works. I think it's going to be pretty good, actually. So there's a whole lot of potential there. And also like already just the content experience. Like think about this. I said earlier, you got Susie from corporate who has to update the website. She can do this. She can do this and do a delightful job. She can create something that's beautiful. She can, use sophisticated formatting elements within, the copy. She can go in and do this. She's not wrestling with the freaking block editor with a billion options. Like this is all basic formatting tools. There's nothing intimidating about this. It's pure delight. It works like a champ. This is accessible. This admin is not intimidating in the least. There's only a few things you can do. There's not a million links up and down the side. There's not all this stuff appearing when you install a plugin. You install a plugin. Here's all the plugin settings pages that are currently available on this site. There's 2. But all the plugin setting stuff gets conveyed here. It's all contained where it's supposed to go. This is not an overwhelming admin. The WordPress admin has gotten extremely overwhelming. It's cumbersome, it's slow, and it's just a mess. Like the whole thing, and this has been known, it's been known for a very long time that the WordPress admin needed an overhaul, but the way the thing is built is such that it cannot happen. It cannot happen. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it cannot happen with the way WordPress works, and that's too bad. So we either deal with that crap and kick the can down the road forever, or we finally suck it up and build the system that needs to be built because we know what we need to do. And that's what PageMotor is. The reality is the most valuable thing on your website is your content. And if you have a customer base, the most valuable thing you have for them is knowing, their name and email and what transactions that name and email is connected to. But that's not actually a WordPress thing. Okay, so we can preserve all those things that are actually important about our business, those core assets, content, customers, and we can move them anywhere. We can move them to a system like PageMotor. The only thing is the system needed to exist. Now it does. It's incredible to me that no one else really did this. I've been watching this closely over the past really 14 years, and I thought for sure it was going to happen. And I thought if I did it, in the intervening 14 years, it would probably not be well received because I kind of became the villain of WordPress, even though it's actually the opposite. I'm the hero of WordPress. Someday we'll know this. But the time has come. The vibe shifted hardcore last September and October when Matt Mullenweg had the the dispute with WP Engine. I think a lot of people had the veil lifted from their eyes. And so they at least see now, like, oh, okay, this wasn't what we thought it was. And, when you start to see that maybe you've been lied to, you start to actually think more critically about all the crap you've been putting up with. Like, do I really need this? This admin sucks. I don't like that when I hand this off to a client, the client doesn't know what to do because it's a complicated freaking mess. I don't like that I'm having to deal with this block editor now, which is complicating my workflow, and it's also making my customers unhappy. Oh, and I also have all these customers who are asking me to just use shortcodes instead of having to deal with the stuff in the block editor. Like, what does this all mean? We have to start thinking about this stuff critically. I'm going to stop sharing. We have to start thinking about this stuff critically and start saying, okay, if customers don't like these solutions and they're asking for the old tech, something's broken here. Something's wrong. But WordPress keeps just shoveling that in, here, swallow this down, choke it down. And it's not working. And it's time to be honest. It's not working. We need something new. PageMotor is this new thing. And, finally we can have something that's clean, airy, free, simple, and that is going to solve these problems instead of just talking about it or trying to put a new face on an old problem. That's not how we do it. Like, at some point you got to strip it all down, start over, start fresh, and make the right decisions from the beginning. And that's what this entire project is about. All right, let's go back to the chat real quick. So Tori Marino asked, is what I'm saying going to help with SEO? Well, SEO is dead. Organic SEO is dead. I do know this. Clean HTML pages with clean markup. I'm talking about like the HTML behind the page, the stuff you don't see unless you hit view source. If that stuff is clean and it's marked up semantically and it's doing all the right things to ensure that the page is delivered in a high performance manner that is totally optimized, and it has all the necessary signals, like the proper semantics on the tags and all this stuff, which is all old stuff that we conquered 15, 20 years ago. If all that stuff is in place, then your page is going to rank as well as it's going to rank. But increasingly, that stuff doesn't matter because you've got AI Gemini now scraping all the results and just giving them to people right there on the search results page. Half the time, I don't even scroll down to look at what the links are. I just see if Gemini's got the answer I need, and I do that. Do I still visit websites? Sometimes, but it's not like I'm, not really converting into buys on most of that stuff. I've really seen a big separation in the last, we'll say 2-3 years, where if I have a query, like my son's gotten into Transformers, so I've been searching for Transformer stuff on Google. Now that stuff, because that's commerce adjacent, like people are buying Transformers, they want to buy that stuff. Then those links, I'm actually visiting some of those sites because Google's showing me those types of deals. That type of SEO, competitive retail type SEO, there's still a place for that. I haven't dealt with a site that's really been doing that, so I don't really know a lot about the inner workings of some of those signals, but I can see that in limited cases, that being, I can see why you would still go after this in those arenas. For general information, I don't think it's worth going after organic SEO at all. You just make the pages and let it be what it's going to be. But for those specific targeted e-commerce things, PageMotor is the best freaking platform possible for this because the HTML markup is perfect. Let's actually look at some HTML markup. Why not? We're here. We're going to go here. We're going here. All right. So let's look at the page source for this. And let me share this tab. Here is an uncompressed HTML source from the PageMotor.com homepage. Let's run through some things real quick that are noteworthy. Number one is this area at the top where we've got pre-connections and preloads of assets on the page. We've got Google fonts that are being served here to create a unique look on the page. And these assets are preloaded and a pre-connection is made to the Google Fonts server to ensure that these resources can be downloaded as quickly as possible. So that's one step of optimization that PageMotor just does if you include Google Fonts in your site. So that's real nice. And then we've got a very tight style sheet that I think is under 22 kilobytes. It's pretty freaking small as far as style sheets go these days. We've got a canonical link in the header. We've got our basic meta robots declarations. So we've got all that good stuff up here in the head, and it's a super tight document head. No crap whatsoever, and no JavaScript. Notably, JavaScript's in the head. With WordPress websites, you're going to find lots of JavaScript in the head, especially any site with a bunch of plugins or doing anything, like e-commerce or anything like that. You're going to find all this crap in the document head. In fact, there's pretty much no chance you could go to any site that does anything and see everything you see in the viewport here would be a bunch of crap in the document head. It's a joke. So this is the cleanest document head you're ever going to see. And then we get to the actual body tag, and we have this indented, semantically marked up HTML. Look, it's a thing of beauty. It's indented until we get down here to the content, which is all served flat left in the markup. And the user is in control of what that markup's going to be. And then we've got, all the down, more semantic markup at the end, no crap anywhere. And the whole thing is 105 lines of HTML. No crap anywhere. This is how you win at organic SEO. You just do the right thing. You serve stuff as simply as and this is how you get results. And then you can include stuff like open graph tags. You can include stuff like schema, markup schema, usually conveyed through a little bit of JSON data. It's a JavaScript object-oriented notation or JavaScript object notation. Stuff like that you can layer on for enhanced SEO, but and PageMotor will eventually have this. But that's simple stuff, and that's really the end of it. But like I said, SEO is increasingly about where you're operating. If you're selling like retail products, if you're like a little mini store, there's certain things you're going to have to do. If you are a public location, such as a restaurant, there's optimizations that you need to do to make sure that you show up in Google Maps. So SEO is now a nichified game. And for people doing information websites like me with my software and all this stuff, I don't have a specific location. I don't have a kind of a retail thing that I'm targeting. So there's really nothing to be gained. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's about being an influencer and having content and pointing people in the right direction and connecting the dots for people. That is the real SEO, if you will, for people in the information space. So good question, but it feels like a blast from the past. I feel like if you're worried about that, hopefully you're dealing with those niche things like retail sites or restaurants or something like that. Otherwise, I think you maybe need to update the software. Let's see. Yep. Sam says Classic Editor is the first and most important plugin I install on any WordPress website. That's because it eliminates the block editor. And so you can use a simpler editor, which is, it's crappy compared to the one I showed you in PageMotor. But I mean, at least it's simpler and you can just write your content and be done with it. My goodness. And Focus, my software for WordPress, gives you a bunch of formatting tools so you can do some of the stuff that I showed you with PageMotor, like the full width bleeds and all that stuff. You can do that with Focus in that classic editor. But again, that just I had this feeling last night after I sent out the email for this live stream. I just had this real strong sense of okay, I'm done with the past. It's over. It's PageMotor now. This is the future. It's so much lighter. It's so much lighter. There's so much more promise. Things are done the right way. There's so many fewer headaches. Oh my God, if I need to do this thing, I can just do it so simply with PageMotor. I don't have to deal with any of this junk I've been dealing with in the past. There's trauma there, gang. I guarantee you, any of you who've worked with WordPress a bunch, you've got so much built up trauma and you've just accepted these realities that stink. And I'm going to unfold all those for you. So you're not going to have to deal with that anymore. It's going to be amazing. And I was feeling that heavy last night. I was like, man, I don't know if I can deal with this crap anymore. I can only deal with the good stuff. All right, so Sam asks, Seventh Scroll asks, will the managed boxes be brought back into PageMotor, focus cards, etc.? The answer is yes. PageMotor will have a built-in breadcrumbs box eventually. I have one for the admin side. The admin side already has breadcrumbs. Let's go look at that real quick. Go back over here. Boom, boom. So if we drill down onto these content and we start editing, it's got these really great breadcrumbs where you can just go right back up the trail and go back to the PageMotor home, the admin home. This is great. I'm going to have something similar for the front end. Because these pages, you can select a parent and create a hierarchical URL structure very easily. So you can a nested hierarchical URL structure. So you could have like yoursite.com/about/me, about/my dog, whatever. You can do that stuff really easily. And it's really easy to create a breadcrumb trail based off of that information. So worth noting, while the beta period is going on, it's going to go on for a period of months, I think. While that's happening, I'm going to be releasing all this new stuff. Like I'm going to be adding, the breadcrumbs into the beta package. I'm going to be adding all this stuff. Cards, I don't know. Like my initial thinking with the cards is that it would be a separate, plugin add-on, because there's a lot of possibilities there, and it will require updating in the future, and there's just a lot that can be done. So it makes sense to be a thing that is paid and updated. So, but all the beta participants are going to get that for free whenever that drops. They're gonna, if you paid for the beta, you're getting that no matter when it drops. You're never gonna have to pay. You're good to go. So, so anyway, yes, the answer is yes. Those will be brought along. So the ones that I'm eyeballing are Open Graph might end up being a native piece of the software. I think it will be. My thinking here is Open Graph going to be a sustainable technology? Is this going to persist for like a decade? If so, it should probably be part of the core. If something becomes deprecated, it sucks to have that in core. It'd be nice to have that as a third-party component that we just stop using when it becomes deprecated. But so that's my thinking there. Maybe it'll be an add-on. Maybe it'll just be an add-on that everybody ends up adding on. I don't know exactly the way to do that, but that will exist. So Open Graph tags in your document head will have that. So you can add like an image and then get those nice cards and social media if you add a link to your site. So that's Open Graph. We're going to do something similar to the YouTube performance plugin, where if you add a YouTube video embed to your site, that takes about 1.5 seconds to queue up from YouTube, and that stinks. But if you use the YouTube performance plugin, you can get, you can serve your own thumbnail image, and then the videos will be loaded up on demand. So you take about 1.5 seconds down to like 0.12 seconds. That's a big savings. That's great. So that will be an add-on plugin. It'll be free. Well, at least for my beta peeps, it'll be free. It'll be cheap if you're not a beta person. Let's see. We got Focus Cards, which will be called PageMotor Cards. That will probably be a paid add-on, but like I said, all the beta people are going to get that for free. And I feel like I'm missing one, but maybe there's only 4. Anyway, that'll be that. I'm even going to do, so some of you who are OGs from my channel may remember a video I did, I think it was late last fall, about what would it be like if you ran your site like a social media feed. I still really like this. So like imagine you just post to your website like you post to X. And then like if you post a thread, then the software just knows that this is going to become a page on the website. And so it'd be a way to, you kind of fire off stuff, but sometimes you fire off something that's more significant. Boom, it automatically becomes a page. You build out your website that way. It's kind of a lightweight way to do it, but kind of a cool way to do your website. I don't know. I think it's intriguing, and I think the dynamics of that, the way that kind of website works, it sort of feels like a new way to do it. So I don't know. I'm intrigued by that. I like the possibilities there. I might like to run my personal website like that, honestly. You can still create links to everything else and create some cards and have stuff that you want people to see, showcase products, link to your most important pages, all that stuff. But your main means of content production would just be this feed, which is pretty neat. So anyway, so those are the 4 or 5 add-on components that I'm already eyeballing. There's going to be more, I'm sure. As we go through the beta, I'm sure some people are going to have great ideas, and we'll figure out where to go from there. Real quick, let's mention this. So while we're on the topic of like plugins and stuff that will be added, some stuff's going to be official, but WordPress has a ton of plugins that, like, the most popular plugins are not official WordPress plugins outside of the classic editor. And there's a robust ecosystem around that. People have made millions and millions and millions of dollars off of WordPress plugins. There's going to be a similar ecosystem for PageMotor. So there's a huge opportunity looming just ahead for making lots of money off of, the plugin space in PageMotor. The only one that I'm eyeballing that I'm really going to tackle that's going to be an official PageMotor plugin is the info product e-commerce plugin. That will probably have another offshoot plugin that's going to be for for like a cashier type functionality. So like imagine you're a doctor's office and you need to collect payment on something, like you can issue an invoice from that and also collect a payment. I think that's real nice. And that'd also be nice to, to have for people to do access via mobile. So like maybe you have a lawn service and then you just invoice your customers through that and then they pay and then it's all matched up. Like something like that, I think makes a lot of sense for a lot of small businesses. And then you could add in another layer. Like, I don't know if I'm going to build this. Like there's a lot to be built. I don't have that much time, but like a scheduling thing, like a Calendly type function for PageMotor makes a lot of sense. Like somebody's going to do that and make a lot of money. So that's something to think about if you're a developer or an agency or interested in this kind of thing. Like, there's some opportunity here, quite a bit. Olga asks, your whole site runs on PageMotor already? Yes, the PageMotor.com website runs exclusively on, here it is. We got our nav menu up here. We've only got a few pages. I got an email list page. I got the email list opt-in in here. I built that in. I just built it in the content editor. Super simple. I copied that from ConvertKit. I think I actually have to go in and change some tags on this because I was doing a whole bunch of dev work when I did this. So I don't even know if this works, but it will work. Anyhow, I built this cool PageMotor beta page with these links to buy the beta. And so what I did, so PayPal and Stripe both offer something called like payment link functionality, where you can create a link for somebody to go onto their website. Like, and we'll click on this. You can go onto the PayPal website and actually buy some product that you set up. Now you can only do so much with this. Like I can't really gather much information from the user, but I can get people to pay for things. And then I have to do some processing on the back end manually to deal with whatever I've received. But you can do that. I said same kind of thing. The Stripe one's pretty nice. And so I was able to, what I did was, so you create the payment link and it'll tell you, hey, the link is this, some crazy random sequence of characters, which I don't think you can see at the bottom of the screen. And then what I did is I went into the editor. I'll show you. And I created a button. I created some buttons. And the buttons have links. I turned them into buttons. I made this one a save button. And boom, that way when somebody clicks on it, so it's not just a basic link. I made the basic link. I created the basic link first, and then I turned that link into a button. And now it looks like a cool button to buy instead of just like a basic link that somebody would click on, which is really nice. And again, you're doing this stuff from the editor. It's so simple, and you get such a nice result. Like that took a lot of work in the past. It took a lot of convolutions. You maybe had to get somebody to build it for you, but with PageMotor, there it is. So I was able to build this really nice little page with, legit looking buy links just by using that combination of the payment links that Stripe and PayPal provide, and then using PageMotor's editor to create nice looking buttons from those links. Pretty sweet. And then the rest of this is just formatting. I started the whole thing with a caption. That's why this is pulled up here like that. I used a list. I'm using contextual bolding to make stuff stand out, to keep your eyes engaged as you go down the page. And I'm not sure. Dang it. Here we go. So I got these links. There's the links. You saw them. But I've got some list. I'm using some highlighting. This is all just formatting. Another list. This is a note call out. I've got these cool HR dividers, which are custom, but I can teach people how to make those. Those are easy. And then, this is a caption, what I mentioned earlier. Another list. I mean, it's so basic. Another call out, and then the buttons. And I've got a really nice page where people can buy the PageMotor beta. And then I've got another about page, just a little thing with a button to the beta. And that's it. I created a custom plugin to serve my header so I could add this little PageMotor logo up there. And I'll be do that this week in the forums. It's real simple. I want people to create some plugins so they don't have this like WordPress has kind of created a wall where it seems like a plugin is a big deal and it only does certain things, and it's got to be like this big undertaking. Whereas with PageMotor, like, I want to do this thing. What's the right place for me to start here? Oh, it's I need to make a plugin. And that's not going to be the case like for basic users. I'm talking about for developer types of people. Like if you want to do this with a website for a client, where are you going to start? Probably going to start with a plugin. Anyhow, so there it is. The PageMotor website runs on PageMotor. I think that's pretty darn cool. It sure feels nice not to be working with WordPress. I got to be honest. So here we go. We're back to the stream. Let's see some more questions. How many websites can I do with PageMotor? Well, if you're part of the beta, you can do as many websites as you want. How will the pricing model work in the future as of now? I've talked about this many times in previous videos, but eventually the core PageMotor platform is going to be free. It has to be free, and here's why. For this thing to go platinum, hosts need to be able to offer one-click installations when you sign up with a hosting service. They need to be able to offer one-click installs. In order for that to happen, there needs to be a license structure in place that enables that easily so that there's not a bunch of red tape there. No host is going to be going out of its way to deal with a bunch of legal crap and a bunch of payments to try and get PageMotor to install simply for their customers. They're just not going to do it. So WordPress, part of WordPress's massive success has been based on the fact that their licensing structure and the cost structure is such that hosts can provide this as a no-brainer thing for their customers. I prefaced this whole thing earlier with the whole like domain, hosting, agency, software, process flow. And the host is the most important piece of that puzzle. PageMotor needs to be easy for hosts to have for everybody. So the money-making part of it comes from the e-commerce plugin, which is going to carry an annual fee, or really the suite of e-commerce plugins, whatever they end up being. The Focus Cards display module, which is going to be a must-have for anybody who actually wants to present anything great on their site. And probably from other stuff that comes up along the way. That's like the most obvious business model, but really the clincher is these AI agents and models and like this AI agency that's going to exist. It's going to carry a much cheaper cost than any agency or developer would ever do. It's going to do much better work than they would ever do. And that's going to be, that's the $1 billion idea there. So, we'll see how that unfolds, but the basic PageMotor software is going to be free. Tori, I hope I explained why I say SEO is dead. It's very nichified now for most people. For information products, it's dead. For specific types of products that you're trying to sell, there's unique things you can do to help with that. But it's increasingly nichified, and it's just nothing like it was 10, 12 years ago. Nothing like it. Let's see. Will the future e-commerce solution be linked to MemberPress or a plugin, or will we be able to not have to rely on a plugin and give access to all pages through PageMotor? Well, it doesn't quite make sense to me, but it'll be a plugin that works with PageMotor. All your users will live in your PageMotor users table within the database, so it'll be yours. It's not the plugins. All of your transactional data is going to exist with the payment processor, so Stripe, PayPal. The plugin is going to know what the relationship between the payments and the customers and the products on your site is, and the products will be defined within the e-commerce plugin itself. But I think the way I'm hoping to bridge this gap is that it's going to be an official PageMotor plugin. It is not going to be a third-party plugin. You will install it as though it's an add-on to your site, but this will be officially developed and maintained by PageMotor, not by some third-party thing. So this will be as tightly integrated as an e-commerce solution can possibly be with this platform. To me, the way I view it is like, if you're going to have PageMotor and you're going to do real business on the internet, you have to have this other piece too. So these two things really are one, but you have to install the one separately. And that's so the host can offer the one-click install. I don't want to give the e-commerce thing away with that. There's reasons why that's unwise to do as well. But, so those two pieces need to be separate for the whole thing to work. But really, for most people's purposes, they're going to be together. You're going to have both. Let's see. Yep, no need to install the cleanup WordPress box anymore. We don't. So Tori says, does it cost? How much does it cost? Well, the beta is $3.99 for the enthusiast package and $5.99 for the developer agency package. But I explain all that stuff on the PageMotor website, pagemotor.com/beta. You can see the exact details there. But like I said, the eventual software is going to be free. Ken says he wants to develop a PageMotor Forms plugin equivalent to Gravity Forms. I love that. That is, I was dealing with that this week when I was trying to get this ready and dealing with that little form on the website. Like, it would be really nice to have a form plugin. And actually, the stuff's already in place. I've got some ideas. Like, I really want to talk about this in another stream this coming week. I've got some really great ideas about how it would work for that, how we can enhance the templates. Like, there's some really good stuff on the horizon there. It's basically meshing the idea, like some of the good ideas from page builders, and bringing them into that template editor that I showed you, or really editing anything, a form, anything that's like a part of a web page. We'll be able to use this very interesting structure to build. So it'll be the real page builder. The name plugins is burned by WP. I get the thinking there, but plugins is something that people intuitively understand at this point. It's okay. Seven Scroll asks, is this the same thought process with, say, setting up a forum with PageMotor? I'm not sure what that's referring to, but I mentioned the information e-commerce plugin, info product, e-com plugin earlier. So what, like the way that works for me, I do something similar right now with my WordPress sites. So on DIYthemes.com, I run easy digital downloads, which you could think of it as MemberPress. It's similar. So the customer signs up, gets a login to DIYthemes.com so they can go access their products. In addition to that, they get access to the private DIYthemes.com forums, and that connection is made between, once they have an active product, then they get access to the forums. So that is something that tie-in is going to be something that the info product e-com plugin for PageMotor does, because I see that as an essential piece of the puzzle these days. VK Wunderwelt asks, what about CRM emails via SMTP, community forums, all that stuff? Yeah, all this stuff, I think those are really good candidates for third-party plugins. The SMTP thing is going to have to be a native part of the platform, and I have not tackled that yet. So like, you can't do a password reset yet, but that's coming. But so real quick, for those who don't know, once upon a time, you used to just install some software like WordPress, and it would be able to send you emails. And you could like send it to you could do a password reset, and it would go to your Gmail account, and you could do all that stuff, and it would just work. Well, the spam wars, which have progressed a lot over the last 20 years, have made it so that websites aren't really allowed to just send emails like that anymore. They have to be routed from your website through a trusted sender that Gmail will actually deliver the email to a Gmail client, and then it goes to the inbox. It was website directly to inbox. That's not allowed anymore. Now you got a website to trusted sender to inbox. And that link in the puzzle sucks. It sucks. This is another thing, goes back to the hosting, agency, domain, all that crap. Now it's SMTP is in there too. You got to find yourself an SMTP provider that's not going to charge you an arm and a leg to deliver a few transactional emails a year from your website. So that's called SMTP, or SMTP provider plugin. I use a service called Mailgun. I don't even know if they have a cheap option anymore. So last time I looked, it was pretty torturous. I looked through a bunch of these providers, like, dang, these all suck. But so that's going to have to happen. They're going to need to be an SMTP bridge for PageMotor, but I think that probably needs to be part of the core. But we'll see. I'm not looking forward to dealing with that. Let's see. I think the pricing is way too high, so I'm not buying. That's great. You don't have to. You can wait until it's free. No big deal. There's a price for everybody. But the people who are getting in now are serious operators. They're building sites for people. They're getting ready for the future, and they're going to be super well positioned to do this. In fact, the people who signed up for the developer price point are going to be privy to this like new plugin economy, and going to know which gaps to fill. Like, in retrospect, $5.99 is is a nothing investment into this amazing future. It's hilarious. And also they're going to have the inroads on the AI stuff. They're like, by the time PageMotor is official, everyone who was a part of the beta program is going to be a genius and way ahead of the game. Way ahead of the game. So this is for real operators. It's not for everybody. That's okay. Let's see. Music Motivated asks, how can I use PageMotor to host my music and sell album downloads? If not now, maybe in the future. I see this as part of the info product ecom plugin. So if you have that plugin, you can create products. Maybe your product is an album, and then your user will purchase the album. That information will be associated with their account. And then you can send them to a page on your website that will be protected where they are able to download whatever they've purchased. That is really the intent of how the ecom plugin is going to work. But again, that's for download. So if the albums were physical, we'd be having a little different discussion. So another distinction that is worth drawing here is that WooCommerce for WordPress is the retail / physical inventory e-commerce solution. So like if you sell t-shirts, you've got a physical inventory, and then you need to like present all these things on your website, that kind of thing. That is what WooCommerce is really for. That's the wheelhouse. Shopify also serves that same purpose. It's for physical inventory, real world brick and mortar type stuff. The ecom or the info product ecom plugin for PageMotor is for digital stuff. Okay. So hopefully that distinction is clear. There's a big difference between physical product stuff that you do online versus digital product stuff. Digital product stuff, that's our wheelhouse. We're going to have that covered. The physical product stuff is maybe I'll leave that up to a third-party thing. I'm not really, I'm not super passionate about that. And I know what a huge can of worms that is. So I think that's something that, a company that's dedicated to that and has knowledge about that should build for PageMotor. But yeah, so what you're talking about with albums, you are definitely on track for the PageMotor ecom info product ecom plugin. And that goes back to the comment about thinks the pricing is too high. Well, the ecom plugin is going to be like, $300-400 a year. So 2 years of that, and it already costs more than the beta, which you get access to that for life, in addition to access to other things. The forums are not going to be free. The PageMotor forums are not going to be free. So like with WordPress, anybody can join the WordPress forums or whatever, wherever you can talk about all this stuff, and anybody can spout whatever nonsense they want, but there's no skin in the game. With PageMotor, if you're going to be talking about feature requests or things like that, or actually wanting to contribute to the software, there needs to be some skin in the game. It makes sense. Like if you want to affect this platform, you don't just do it by, having 500 feature requests. That's nonsense. You actually got to get in there, touch base with the other people who are interested in this, working on this, care about this, trying to understand this. And then maybe you develop a better understanding of, we need to do things this way, or here's why this makes sense to do, but this does not. In addition, I have to steward that community. So I have to tender all these discussions. I have to be present and, seeing what people are saying, okay, are offering up information like, this is how the core thing works. We need to fit into this model. This is smart, but this makes sense as a third-party thing. Like there is a lot of organizational stuff there that is not free to do. And so that is why the PageMotor forums, if you want to be a contributor to the information space of PageMotor in the forums, or to the product space, you're going to need to be paying an annual fee for the forums. And so over enough years, like the annual fee for the forums, I don't even know what it's going to be yet. I think $47 and $67. Apple, for example, to contrast this, if you want to develop for iOS for Apple, you have to pay, it might be $199 a year now, but it was $99 a year. So we'll say 99. I think it might be 200 though now. $99 a year to get the SDK, which is the toolkit that enables you to publish iPhone apps. But that also, you can't get your stuff listed in the store unless you paid this gateway fee. And that's an annual fee. So pretty much and they take 30% of your yield, if not more. So PageMotor not going to take anything of your yield. If you want to build a plugin, you get all the money for the plugin. but there's a fee to get in the door to actually be a contributor. So that makes sense, and that's a way to maintain quality standards in the community. But bottom line is, if you were a member for 10 years, that'd be 600 at the pricing I suggested. A developer member for 10 years be $670 over that time frame. That's more expensive than the cost of the PageMotor beta. And if you get in on the beta at the developer level or the enthusiast level, you are going to be in the forums forever. You're never going to have to pay. So you've already submitted your status. And that's just one aspect of what these beta participants are getting. So I always LOL at people who are unable to kind of gauge costs over time and is something worth it? I don't care about these discussions. I just think it's funny. And Sam says, having owned a Focus license for years now, the forums alone have saved hundreds of hours of headaches. It's worth it. And he's right. I mean, so when software is really patternized and good, like with Focus, for example, for WordPress, even though it's with WordPress and WordPress stinks, if somebody brings me a problem, I know how to fix it right away. There's very few issues that I have to kind of rack my brain over. I've seen it all at this point. It's very patternized. Yeah, I've got a bunch of people in the forums, a bunch of OGs in there who know how to answer questions for people. Usually by the time I get to the topic, somebody's already offered up the proper solution because there's so many patterns in play. They know what the deal is and they boom. So, benefits on benefits on benefits here. Ken says, PageMotor being so lightweight compared to WordPress, I wonder how many more sites I could run on one of my hosting plans. I'd love to know. I'd love to see a real world example of that. I'm curious about that as well. You've got storage limits. You've got data transfer limits. You've got all that stuff. And it's so much cheaper with PageMotor. I just imagine if you're, I think WP Engine has something like 1.7 million sites hosted on it or something like this. What would it look like if tomorrow we switched 1.7 million WordPress sites over to PageMotor? What would their energetic load look like? I think it would be fractional. I'm talking single-digit percentage fraction of what it is now. Tremendous, mind-blowing cost savings. It just doesn't happen that your energy output is X and then suddenly it's 1/10 of X. It's almost impossible to imagine that. I can't think of any analogous scenario in real life where that's occurred, but I think that would definitely be the case with PageMotor, and I'm dying to see it. I got to see this. I want to, it's huge. Why don't we take all that savings and start mining Bitcoin with the savings? But seriously, yeah, there's so much there. I really, I'm so eager for a host to kind of do this. They're going to be blown away. All right. So I've been blabbing on now for an hour and a half almost, minus the early technical difficulties. Is there anything you guys specifically want to see? See me do with PageMotor? Do you want to see some of the plugin architecture? I can pull some of that up. We can talk about some of that with the AI thing. What else would you guys like to see? Or if any of you who have installed PageMotor, hopefully the docs on the forums were pretty good and you were able to do it. But if you've got any questions, I'll field those now. I can walk you through that stuff. It's all good. Music Motivated asks, can I add caching features? Someone's going to do this at some point. There's no need for it right now. It's so fast and so lightweight. I'd encourage anyone who wants to fiddle with this, go to web page test. Is it .org? Let me see what it's .org. Webpagetest.org, and go put in pagemotor.com and just see what the results are. And then go compare that against some of your favorite WordPress sites. So I actually love this question. I'm glad you brought this up because caching is viewed as the salvation for a crappy WordPress website. An agency will do all this work and it'll be totally unoptimized. It'll just be a piece of crap. But then, they do some aggressive CDN work and some aggressive caching, which is no easy feat, by the way. You need a specialist to do this effectively. It's a pain in the butt. And then, okay, it's a pain in the butt to do. And then, maybe you can get something that's reasonably high performance in the end. And this is viewed as okay, we did the job right. That's crap. You don't win at performance by adding this layer on the end that papers over all the sins that you've committed. You win at performance by doing everything right up front. And then you don't really have to add this super complicated, enormous technical layer on top. And the problems come in though, is when you want to fiddle with your website or make changes and you've got this complicated technical layer, like it is a pain in the butt. Anybody who's worked with CDN or aggressive caching solution on a big website has probably encountered this, and it is not pretty. Like you need to do some simple action, but you've got to spend 3-4 hours getting all the pieces in place to be able to take this one simple action because you had to undo all this caching crap to be able to do it. Like caching has a reputation that it does not deserve. And it only has that reputation because all the software output that we've been dealing with is garbage. So I don't love caching because it's not like, I'd rather do the job right underneath the caching layer. But at some point it makes sense. Like we can make PageMotor sites even faster. We'll have them rendering as fast as a freaking bare HTML document on a server. Go fire up index.html on your server and then add another like about.html and see how fast it switches between those two pages. You can absolutely jam. That's how fast a PageMotor site would be with just an effective base layer of caching. It'd be sick. So somebody will build that. Somebody who's into that. I'm not really into that. But that's the beauty of a plugin ecosystem. The people who are enthusiastic about particular topics, like some people are security freaks. I'm not. Security freaks should build in the security stuff. It makes sense. People who love caching, build the caching stuff. SEO stuff. It's beautiful. There's a place for everybody. Ken says, Chris, the beta requirements mention that PageMotor can piggyback on an existing WordPress database. Can you elaborate on this? Yes. So if you have a WordPress installation, there is a config.php file for WordPress. In that file, you indicate what your database credentials are. So you'd input the database name, the database username, the user for the database, and then the password. And that sets up, WordPress will set up its native tables with like WP underscore and then the name of the table, WP options, whatever. You can use those exact same credentials, the database name, the username, and the password to set up your PageMotor installation, and PageMotor will prefix all of its tables with PM underscore. So it'll be PM underscore options instead of WP options. And all those tables can live in the same database. So that is how you would piggyback. You can use this step to not have to create a new database. If a database already exists on your server, just piggyback off the one that's already there. So if you're already running WordPress, you know that database exists on that server, you can just use the same database. So that's how that would work. So hopefully that makes sense. Sam asks, any provisions for accessibility ally needs, focus rings, tabbing, etc. So I fiddle with a little bit of this. I'm not an expert on all that stuff. I looked into this. I looked into this a little bit in the fall of last year because I was curious. So there is something that happens that I call the 99-to-1 fallacy. And in the 99-to-1 fallacy, here's what happens. We saddle 99% of the people with a form of debt that serves only, that its only purpose is to serve 1% of people. And accessibility stuff really does this. It adds HTML cruft, lots of it, like a serious amount. Like if we had that page I showed you with the HTML markup, if that was totally marked up for accessibility, it would add between 10 and 30% to the HTML cruft of that web page. It's non-trivial. That would have a huge effect on, like, if WP Engine switched over all the sites tomorrow, that would have a huge effect on the total outcome there. And so my view is that the platform needs to be set up so that it can do that, but it does not do that stuff by default. Like maybe the admin should, okay, we have an argument there. But as far as front-end output, maybe there could be a modified version of the core default theme that has that, so that can be deployed by the organizations that ask for it. But I just want the general audience to know that I am very wary of any instances of the 99-to-1 fallacy, and I will vigilantly guard the core platform against that kind of encroachment. And by guard, I mean make sure that it's done only in the right way and never in a ham-fisted way that just shoves a bunch of crap in there and says, everybody swallow this, even though this doesn't even pertain to you. Okay, so I'm protective of the core code base in that way. I'm not against ally or accessibility features or anything like that. I'm saying it needs to be done the right way and not in a way that does the 99-to-1 fallacy. No way. Ken says you've emphasized the simplicity of PageMotor admin for clients. For agencies handing off sites, what does the user permission system look like? Okay, that's a great question. I have not elaborated on this at all in videos yet. So right now, I just did a very rudimentary user system for PageMotor to get this beta out. It has, I think, 4 levels of access. Let me see if I can figure this out. Well, okay, I'll just try to go from memory here. I think it's got 4 levels of access. It's got admin. It's got something called producer. So a producer would be like somebody like a designer or developer you get in there. So maybe you don't want them to be able to change any admin features or any users, but you do want them to have access to things like the theme panels. So like they can change design options, they can change the templates, stuff like that. So like a quarantined admin environment for people who are working on the site. So that's producers. Producers could also be writers. And then I think I have customer or user. I'm not sure how I define the term, but a customer would be somebody who has no admin access whatsoever. So this would be somebody who you'd want to be able to log in on the front end of your website, and then they go to something like an account page, account hub or something like this, and they can go explore whatever they've purchased on the website. This is in preparation for the info product ecom plugin. And then you have people who are not logged in at all. So there's 3 levels there. And I set it up so that I know that the roles would be expanded in the future. And that's something that we should play with during the beta period, depending on, like feedback like yours, about what specific delineations you would want there in terms of people interacting with the website. So I just went for the big ones, like you're a customer, you don't belong in the admin, so you get no admin access. You're a super admin, you get access to everything, or you're somebody else like a producer in the admin and maybe you only get access to certain features, but not others. So that stuff's in there, but it needs to be refined. Yeah. Sam says, if I hand this off to a client, I don't want you to touch this or this or this. So like, I'll flip back over to the screen share. So we go to right here, I guess. Nope. Yep. All right. So we're in the PageMotor admin. And so if we go to site settings, we turn off the admin management. We'll notice that I can now no longer edit admin content. There's an admin plugin called the Theme Seed that I use to create the theme files for distribution. That is no longer visible now because that's an admin only plugin. So that gets obscured. So this is the default admin environment. So when you hand this off to a client, this option would not be checked. And I might even make a way for you to like obscure that so they can't even do that. But that may not be necessary. Just this environment is basically a non-destructive environment. They can, go and set some options on stuff that exists. They could manage plugins. They could add plugins or delete stuff. We could talk about that. There could be an expanded role set there where like even this stuff's not visible. All this stuff is, easily achievable. We just need to define what's going to happen there. And then I have to kind of work that stuff into the software in a way that's elegant and can be expanded and doesn't create these bottlenecks where stuff would not be possible in the future. So it just requires some thinking ahead of time to make sure it's pulled off the right way, but it's all there. So I like this because you're not accessing the admin stuff. Like being able to mess with the admin theme is potentially very destructive. Like I could screw up this whole admin right away by doing that. So that's why the default operating state is not to have that. But it is darn handy for me building this. It's been great. But yeah, so only what you need, none of what you don't. I definitely want that to be the general guiding thesis for the way the admin works. VK Wunderveld says accessibility is a major thing in the EU by now. Heavy fines if you disrespect handicapped people. Yeah, I don't have a lot positive to say about the EU. They shove 99-1 fallacies down everybody's throat all the time. All the time. that cookie provision at the bottom of websites, all that stuff. There's some other stuff too. I mean, I'm forgetting about it because it's too painful. That I mean, there's just this is the MO of the EU is to just drop another 99 to 1 fallacy on the populace. It's like that's their favorite thing to do. Find another one and drop it on everybody's head. So ridiculous. GDPR. There you go. Ken says he'll be developing accessibility and GDPR plugins for PageMotor. I love it. I love it. His business has built a strong reputation for providing this functionality on their WordPress websites for European clients. This is what people need. And the plugin system makes this totally possible. So those who really want to do it or really need it can deliver those solutions. I think that is beautiful. And that enables me to sit over here across the pond and say, I think that is the biggest bunch of crap I've ever seen. I hate the 99 to 1 fallacy. All that stuff does is make our software in our world worse and less accessible and more expensive. And everybody can go their separate ways and be happy with the solutions. It's great. But yeah, I like to keep it clean. That's my favorite thing. So my highest virtue, clean and fast. So yeah, anything else that you guys want to see? Anything I can demonstrate for you? What else do we want? So JV says, is there not an admin logout at this time? Does it require clearing a cookie to relog in? That's super funny. Yeah, it does require clearing a cookie. The cookie expires. I think it's on 7-day expiry right now. And I just realized I didn't put a logout link in there. So like the next thing that I'm going to do for development is to put a users. I'll show you this. A users. We got content, plugins, themes, site settings. Another one's going to be users. A user management module in here to go in and manage users in the way that you can manage your content. And so I'm going to do that. And I'm sure the logout would have come up at some point there. Maybe I'll... But the logout wouldn't be that hard for me to add. So I'll add that in the next round of updates. It needs that. So yeah, I've just been clearing the cookie to kill the login. But that is kind of funny to me that I forgot that for the beta. But that's why it's beta. All right. So it is 2:27 here. Trying to think of if I could illuminate anything else about the AI thing. But really, this is going to catch some legs when. Okay, here we go. This is great. I'll come back to that. So VK Vundevelt says wish list, an update function. Yeah, you can't. So there is no auto update for the platform yet. There's going to be. So this was the huge issue back in September and October with WordPress, where they shut off WP Engine from the update repository, from the plugin update repository, and I guess from the main update WordPress update repository as well. So the way PageMotor is going to solve this is going to look like this. PageMotor, so me as running PageMotor.com, I will create my own update repository for PageMotor and for the official PageMotor plugins and components, so those can be updated from that repository. This is not a public repository. No one else will be using it. But the same mechanism PageMotor uses to create that, or that I use to create that for my assets, if you will, for the PageMotor assets, any other third-party developers will be able to use that same system to create their own update repository. So it is a distributed update network instead of what WordPress has, which is a centralized update network that WordPress controls. There's sensible reasons why I don't want to do this, not just like because of dictatorship reasons, but it works better for everybody if my update repo's down, but Ken's is not. His stuff will still be able to update. But if I run the centralized repo and my stuff is down, well, everybody's stuff is down. That's not a good solution. It's also not a good solution just from the standpoint of governance. It's bad governance if I'm in charge of everybody's stuff. I'm the gatekeeper. So if you do that, over time you get into a scenario where you're like, I'm not going to allow you to have your stuff on here. Then you're making these decisions like that. That increases my managerial weight, which is very dumb. I don't want to have any extra load to think about, like, do I want to host this person's stuff or not? Like, I shouldn't even be engaging those decisions and that type of thinking. So if you want to host your own update repo, you can. and boom, you can update your components that you're responsible for, and by running your own thing. And I'm going to map this all out for everybody. I'm going to make it very clear and very easy how to build your own update repo. I want everyone who builds for PageMotor to be able to do this easily and in a way that's sustainable and in a way that will be guaranteed to work for all the people who use PageMotor. So that's a big part of the forthcoming development. And this is something that we are going to tackle during the beta phase. So I welcome everybody's input on that. VuDevelop wants an update function. Well, I just talked about the update function. I was talking about the AI thing, but I'm going to entertain a couple more of these before I go back. He says, please show a basic plugin structure or how it works. Okay, well, let's do that. Let me see. Okay, Ken's got some more stuff. I'll come right back to that. So let's see if I can open PageMotor real quick. We'll do this. We'll open PageMotor. Okay. All right, let's share the screen. Let's check out. Wow. I've got to figure out which tab to share. Oh, it's a window. Okay, it's a window. Oh, I'll need to restart Chrome to do that. I can't do it. Oh, man, that's weak. Can I share my screen? No, I can't. Shoot, I would have had to do this before the video. Okay, that sucks. That sucks. I can't share that today. I'd have to kill the stream. I'm not going to do that. So, okay, I have shown this stuff in a previous video. Let me see if I can find out what the video was so I can give you a reference so you can check that out after this is done. Because I've talked about this a bunch this year in my streams about PageMotor and its development. So let's see. I've got one called there's one called Huge PageMotor Update. It's from 2 months ago, so maybe May or late April, where I talk about the plugin architecture. And I've got, let me see if I can drop a link in the chat. So the video is timestamped, so which is really cool. So you can just go to the timestamp that is labeled with something that's relative to your interests and see that part of the video. So it's a long video, but you don't have to watch the whole thing. You can just watch the stuff that's of interest to you. So there's the link in the chat. That's a really cool video. All these videos are really cool. I mean, most of the ones I did to showcase PageMotor were like 45 minutes to 2 hours long, which is crazy, I know. But I mean, it's a big system. There's a lot to talk about. So anyway, you can go to the plugin architecture timestamp on that video. There's quite a few of them actually. And I actually walk you through the valet, I call them valet methods that are key part of the way the AI thing is going to work and the way, so like if you build a plugin, let's say, you build a plugin and you want your plugin to serve JavaScript. How do you do it? Well, there's a pathway to do exactly that. Or if you build a plugin and you want to add CSS, well, there's two ways you can do that. You can just add it to the general site, which will show up on every page, or you can add it to the actual compiled CSS of the theme. And if you do that, you can reference design variables from within the theme. And that way, like you can reference the fonts, the sizing, the spacing, and all that stuff. And that way, if you've done it in that manner, when your plugin output appears on the page, it's going to use all the design settings that exist in the theme. That is the key to creating an integrated solution, which WordPress cannot do. And that's one of the things, I spoke about it earlier, but that's how it's going to happen. You can actually say, hey, when you're compiling all the CSS for the site, for the theme, add this in too. And then that SCSS that you've added in there has variable references in it from the current theme. And boom, it all just works. It's amazing. Super powerful. I really love that. There's going to be some amazing rapid prototyping that we're going to be able to do in just a few months. It's going to blow people away. No one's ever seen anything like this. So that's probably the most instructive video for the plugin architecture where you can see it, and I kind of explain quite a bit of it. I also talk a lot about it in this other video called You've Never Seen Real Object-Oriented Programming Before. Here's the link to that. And that whole video is really about the plugin architecture and the way that stuff works, the way it has to work to be super flexible and super effective. Also, if you are in the PageMotor beta and you have the software, you can just open up the PageMotor folder, and inside that is a library folder, lib. You go into the library folder. Within that is a whole folder called plugins. I encourage you to go through every one of those if you want, if you're interested. Go through those and look at the plugin.php file inside each plugin and see what that plugin has defined. Everything in that file, and it's not much. It's not much for each plugin at all. You'll be blown away. That's how that plugin does whatever it does. Some of them add JavaScript. Some of them add CSS. Some of them have specific some options that get conveyed in various places in the PageMotor admin. Some of them have HTML output. Some of them are have custodians, so they're dependents. So they don't actually show up anywhere unless the custodian appears. So like there's something called the page container, which is for outputting like the content of a page. Well, there's dependent boxes or dependent plugins underneath that called like the content title or the page title or the page date or the page author or the page content itself. Like if, everything you entered into the content field in the content editor that we've got there, that gets output where the content box is, which has a custodian, which is the page container. So there's all sorts of interesting little architectural quirks that allow the system to do what it does in a very organized way. And so it's a great education. It's a great education if you're interested in the software at all to actually go through that, specifically through the /lib/plugins folder to see how that stuff is done. It's amazing the way the whole thing works. Okay. So Music Motivated asks, what programming language or framework is used to build plugins? It's PHP is the main language to build the plugins, but you can involve JavaScript or CSS or SCSS also if you want. And all that stuff is baked into the platform. Like there's a little bit of that going on with all these plugins. But the main code that talks to PageMotor is PHP. And really, so like, you can write anything you want in PHP, but really the language you'll be speaking, the plugins speak their own very specific language where like, if I want to do this, okay, then I'm going to do this. It's very clear. It's a one-to-one. If this, then this sort of thing. And that's why the AI is going to be so good at producing that kind of output. All right, Ken says, for developers new to PageMotor's patternized way of doing things, what does the development and debugging experience look like? Are there built-in tools or verbose error logs? Well, there's no built-in tools for error debugging yet. I do have in the index.php file in PageMotor, I have turned on basic PHP error messages. So if an error occurs, you will see it. So this is a key part of the beta experience. If you encounter any error messages, I want to know what they are. I want to know what screen they happened on. I want to know what action took place so I can iron out all of those bugs. I don't anticipate the beta testers running into too many of those until they start building their own custom plugins. That's when errors are likely to occur. But that, this is the way the experience needs to go. People need to hammer on the platform, figure out where it breaks, and then we will solve those problems. But we're just leveraging PHP's built-in error handling to, know that there's a problem. PageMotor also has a bunch of tools, really a bunch of tools built into it that are super handy for website stuff. So, for example, the main PageMotor object is accessed from within code anywhere as $motor. That's $sign is a PHP variable reference. It's motor. So it's global. It's a global variable. You have to pull it into the scope. You have to say global motor with the $sign in front of it. And then you can access motor, the motor object, to do whatever you want. And the motor object contains everything about the PageMotor instance on the website. Now, there's tons of objects within it, like motor, and then an arrow indicates a sub-object. We go motor or a property or a property of the object, motor, arrow, content, and then that accesses the PageMotor content object, which tells you everything about the content that's registered to the website. There's another one called the page object, motor arrow page. You can access everything about the current page that's being rendered. There's a bunch of these. There's a settings object, there's an options object, there's a database object, there's all these things. But the PageMotor object itself has 2 or 3 handy functions. One's called text. So if you want to output text, what you need to do, if you output text, especially text that's been input by a user, like through a text area or form or something like this, you need to sanitize what was input so that malicious script injection, stuff like that doesn't happen. And you also need to, if you need to add formatting, so like if I input a bunch of text here in the editor, let me just show you real quick. If I go and input a bunch of stuff in the editor, and I'm in here and I'm typing and stuff like this, so you'll notice this character right here it's not an apostrophe. It's supposed to be an apostrophe, but it's not an apostrophe. It's called a prime mark. This is what happens if you hit apostrophe on your keyboard. It actually enters as a prime mark, not a true apostrophe. And quotes aren't quotes, they're double primes. So for proper typographic presentation and output, they need to be turned into proper quotes. Here's a quote. They need to be turned into proper quotes and proper apostrophes for the final output. Let's switch over and see this. What page was that? That's about PageMotor. So now look at this. This character has been turned into an apostrophe. These have been turned into proper quotes. So within PageMotor, we say these things have been textified. So the main PageMotor object, motor dash text, is a method in there. So you use that method to output text within your any user input text within your plugins, and that way you can textify it and also sanitize it to get rid of anything that could be malicious or evil. And then it also adds the great typographical enhancements, so the output is actually what you want and sophisticated. So there's the text method inside the PageMotor object. So you got the text method, you've got a URL method for producing URLs to your front end. You've got admin URL method for producing links to URLs on the admin side of things. You've got another one called URL escape, which is for escaping URLs. So like if you pass around the value of a URL through code, it'll get munged, it'll get messed up, and then it won't work on the end. So you have to escape it, so that all the characters are preserved when that value is passed around. So this is a function that's used within PageMotor to do certain things, but plugins will be leveraging this. So there's a litany of functions within PageMotor that developers will become accustomed to using. There's another object inside the PageMotor object called tools, PageMotor tools. So it's motor arrow tools to access this. And there's quite a few functions in there that are useful. The textifying and the way the text is handled, all that stuff is inside the tools. There's like UI forms and stuff like that, like simple ways to output things that are all baked in there. And this is all going to be in the docs, as soon as I get those up. But yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that plugin developers are going to be getting familiar with. So like if you work with WordPress, you're used to a lot of this stuff. You're used to escape attribute, ESC _ ATTR, ESC URL. You're used to outputting text in a way that can be translated. There's just a ton of stuff that we've gotten used to working with WordPress. PageMotor has similar things, but in my view, they are organized in a superior way. There's fewer of them, and it's clearer when to use certain things. It's just it's like taking everything we learned from WordPress, really thinking about it critically and applying it to this new environment and trying to do it better. Ken says, PageMotor clearly driven by my singular vision, which is a key strength. Looking ahead, what structures are you considering to ensure the platform's longevity and stability? That is a great question, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Number one, I want to make sure, so like I mentioned the update repository, I want to make sure that third-party developers on the platform have total autonomy. Total autonomy. So I can't be gatekeeping here and saying like so-and-so is allowed to do this and so-and-so is not. that would limit outcomes unnecessarily. Not every outcome that is good for the platform is going to come from a place that I'm just like totally in agreement with all the time. That's crazy. It's never the way anything works. Therefore, it's necessary that plugin developers can do what they want and run their own system and test it against the larger market to see what works. I cannot and will not test all the different things, and I can't possibly know what all is going to work the best. We need to try as many things as possible as a community, and then the market will choose what it wants and what it needs. And the only way that's going to be done efficiently or effectively is if third-party plugin developers can do whatever they want and run their own little ecosystems without interference. So to me, that's like the main thing that ensures that the platform maintains its integrity. As far as the core goes, like right now, I'm obviously building the core. I have been thinking about what it might look like if I had other contributors to the core platform. And I definitely want people to be able to provide feedback to shape it so that, the core does what it needs to do. And I know there's lots of holes like that are going to need to be filled with functionality in the core. And like WordPress has development standards so that people who contribute do things in a certain way. And something like that is going to have to happen for PageMotor. I'm not totally sure what that's going to look like yet, but I do know that I don't want things getting bolted onto the platform by like I'm not going to point like a development team and I have nothing to do with this, and they build this thing out that's like grotesque and doesn't fit with the larger PageMotor motif. Like there's so many patterns in play here. We have to continue to use these and not go outside of them. And that's really been a big part of the development process so far. It's like I keep coming back to this notion and this idea that it's like very much a practice and discipline. Like there's things like, okay, it's one thing to want to create some outcome on a web page and get that outcome to happen. It's quite another to say, okay, we got the outcome we wanted. Now, how do we make sure this fits in 100% with the pre-existing patterns? Like what kind of refinement do we have to go through? What kind of steps do we have to take? What needs to be done to make sure this all is ironed out perfectly? Like I made the bed, but there's wrinkles on the bed. How do we iron out all these wrinkles too? That's the way I like to solve problems. I'm very rigorous about that. And my only desire is that as PageMotor expands, that quality standard is maintained. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like. I know that I can't do all the work myself. I'm thinking about, since it is going to be essentially open source software, at least in terms of licensing and how like hosts will be able to use it and all that stuff. It's like the question is, how do you run open source without like ruining it over time? Like in my view, WordPress totally ruined over time. Everything just got bolted on. The enthusiasm to add more things and have WordPress do more things has indeed, it's crippled WordPress and calcified it in a way where it can't be fixed. So obviously it doesn't help anybody if we lead PageMotor to a place where it's crippled. So I don't know. I don't know what the answers are there. I don't know what kind of like governance or like foundation or any of that stuff. Like it strikes me that like, WordPress has the foundation. So people are like, oh, maybe something like that. Well, I don't know. That's been used as a political tool and a cudgel. That hasn't, it's been used as a way to kind of pull the wool over people's eyes and do this deceptive stuff that people now don't like. And they saw that last year. So I don't think it's clear what the answers are, even though I think some people are like, oh yeah, just do this. I don't think it's as clear as others might think. But I do know that I want to maintain the integrity of the platform, and I see that really as my main job, is like being a great steward and ensuring that there's a quality standard that's maintained. Zach says, "Let's go, Chris. Super pumped for you. Let's go play golf." All right. So I like those questions. Those good questions about like the governance of the platform. That's a big one. That's looming. The plugin ecosystem is really of supreme interest. I'm going to have to do another live stream like next week talking about that. So like the next piece of content I'm going to make for the forums today and tomorrow probably is how to create your first plugin. And I'm going to actually start going through and creating documentation that will live on the PageMotor website about all the, it's just about all the the features of plugins, like, okay, if you want to do this, then you do this, that kind of thing. And I want to feed that stuff to an AI as soon as possible to see what it can create and how well it can understand the software. Yeah, so I mean, like that's like an item of immediate interest is helping people in the beta start creating their own plugins, and I want people to feel what it's like to work with that architecture. It's a different thing. It's a different paradigm than we're used to with WordPress. Like if you hear plugin, you think a very specific thing. PageMotor is going to shift that thinking, and it's really so. With WordPress, you have, like I've mentioned earlier, you have like a custom functions file or a functions file or something like this. And that's like your entry point for how to interact with the software. With PageMotor, that entry point of interaction is a plugin, but you can go anywhere. Once you get in with the plugin, you can go anywhere from there. You can create some output within an HTML template. You can change stuff in the admin. You can change stuff on the front end. You can go anywhere from there, and I'm really excited to help people explore that. That made me think of something else I wanted to talk about during this live stream that's pretty exciting. Let me see if I can recall exactly what that was. But gosh. Oh, here we go. So there is a huge aspect of internet commerce that is not talked about very much. But those who deal with software and investment stuff, or at least have a passing familiarity with the topic. But here it is. It is industry-specific software development. I'm talking about something like software for yoga studios. So if you have a yoga studio, you probably are in contract with this one company paying like $300 a month or something for their software, which includes like class bookings, maybe some way to sell some merchandise on your website, all the stuff you need to run your yoga studio, like with the basic customer interactions, all that stuff lives on your website. You have like an admin panel to, administer all that stuff, that kind of thing. So there's that for yoga studios. There's stuff for doctors' offices. There's stuff for law firms. There's stuff for dentists. I mean, you name the specific industry. I promise you there is a company in that industry, even stuff you wouldn't even imagine, making between $20 and $100 million a year. I'm not joking at all. These companies do insane numbers. So this is a huge part of the larger software industry. But what is amazing to me is that most of the companies that do this have built like basically a specific CMS for that industry. So it's like, the yoga people have built something. And when I've looked at these solutions, when I've had a chance to kind of explore them, they're really crappy. They're really crappy. They're full of holes. They're patched up. It goes back to the rusty nails and duct tape thing. That's true for WordPress. It's true in these industries as well. And it's no surprise because you're building a full suite of like content management and customer management, but doing it in a way where you're just trying to achieve a very specific outcome. PageMotor is trying to achieve a very generalized outcome, something that will work for everybody in any situation. PageMotor is applicable to any situation, to any use case, and is built in there's a way, if you're familiar with computer science, there's a way to build something that's specific, that's called hard coding. And there's a way to build something that's going to work in every case, like involving variables. Like if you have, okay, here's this specific set of circumstances and this program works, but now let's change the set of circumstances. Does the program still work? And for most of these like $20 to $50 million bespoke industry-specific website companies, the answer is no. The software, it really, doesn't work in too many different situations. They're very constrained. And so here's the magic of another piece of the magic of PageMotor, and that is the way the system is designed. There's a front end theme and an admin theme. Both are completely modifiable. You can change them both to be anything you want. So what is any piece of software for any of these industries? You have an admin that has certain features and functionality, and you have a front end that's a display for customers or for your staff or whatever. That's it. You have an admin and a front end. That's the whole thing. The only difference is what functionality do you need for this industry versus that industry. So PageMotor is really and it's designed, literally designed to be able to be white labeled for any purpose where you need an admin and a front end. So it's like an app for anything. And, you could take it. I could take my PageMotor toolkit and say, and, you could sick me on the job and say, okay, Chris, make this for law firms. I can do that. Anyone familiar with the software will be able to do that. And so it is crazy that you have all these many, multi-million dollar companies operating in specific niche industries, all building out different expressions of what is essentially the same thing. There's no good reason why they shouldn't all be using the same basic toolkit, such as PageMotor, because the leverage they would have on how good the outcomes are is going to be unreal. So this is another step of the puzzle. With the AI thing, if AI can rapid prototype you an e-com website in a couple minutes, well, it can also rapid prototype you a PageMotor installation that's bespoke for a law firm or a doctor's office or a yoga studio or whatever. I mean, we are talking about many billions of dollars worth of potential economic impact because this thing is, if you have an app and you have an admin side and you have a front end, that's what an app is. As far as running on internet, running on within a browser, this is the solution for everything. It really is. I'm not joking. It's not hyperbole. Like I said, everyone's building different expressions of the same thing, but they're all crappy. Why don't we start with a perfectly optimized base and then deploy it in all these other areas? It just makes sense. So I love that. I'm super excited about that. I know some stuff's going to cross my plate in those areas over the next couple of years. I'm really excited to see where that leads because it's going to be exhilarating. There's so much potential economic ground to be gained there. It's unreal. I mean, if you think the plugin ecosystem for PageMotor is an exciting proposition, this industry specific software application is crazy lucrative, and it'd be like shooting fish in a barrel. All those software solutions that are out there are terrible. PageMotor will blow them all away. All right, so Wunderveld says, installed while watching. Where do I edit the nav? You can go to, I'll show you. How about that? Showing is better than telling, gang. Let's go. If you are in the admin, so here we are, we're in the admin. I'm going to go back here. You want to edit your nav. So in the PageMotor beta, let me show this page. Oh, well, crap. This is not the best example. Let me show you a different example. I got a different site. I'm going to share this tab instead. So this is a bare bones PageMotor install with the beta from today. So we're going to go to, so this is the home page. I've got just a generic nav with 2 links in it, but people are wanting to edit this. So we're going to go to, and this is just a workaround solution for this beta. This is not how, there's going to be a nav menu plugin. Okay. This is going to be way more sophisticated. That's coming too. But we're going to go to theme settings and we're going to go to editable elements. And we're going to go to text box menu. And right here we have a menu marked up in raw HTML. It's an unordered list with a class of menu. This is very important. You want to keep this and you want to keep this closing UL. And then you can change or add these UIs as you see fit. So I'm going to change this, add a docs link. Going to say docs, we got about, and then I'll do one more about products or something. So this is how you'll edit your list. Make sure you change your links so that they are where you want them to go. What goes between the A tags is what's going to show on the page. I'm going to save this real quick. We're going to go look at the site. We're going to share this tab instead. And oh, look, there you go. Here's my new links. And they all work. So that's how you will edit your nav menu for now. I just put that together has a little stopgap solution because I don't have the proper nav menu plugin built yet. It's actually kind of sophisticated to do that. But that's coming too. So that's, I've got to compile this list and put it on the forums about all this stuff that I'm going to tackle during the beta period. It's a dizzying amount of stuff. But really, I've learned as I've gone through this and built this out to what it is right now. Like, I'm just leveraging patterns that already exist. It's really not too bad. It's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. But I do have to do, this is just since you guys are here. But if we go back to the admin, so a lot of stuff has options. What would be a good example? Okay, we'll go to content. So, nope, this site doesn't have any content. We'll go back to this other one. This one has content. We'll share this tab instead. So I'll show you this. So if we scroll down here to the bottom, we've got some extra options underneath the content area. So the nav menu is going to need to, you need to be able to define an unknown number of links. You might want 1 link, you might want 6 links, you might want 10 links. I don't know. So I can't just code up a thing with 10 option spots and I'm not going to do that. It's not elegant. Like, okay, fill in however many of these you want, and that's how many links you'll get. So you need to be able to say, oh, I want to add a new link. Okay, so there'd be one field in the beginning, but you want to add another one. Boom, you click, and it adds another field similar to these fields. That type of functionality where you can add an unknown number of options to a particular options page. I haven't built that in yet, and I never built that into Thesis. It was always something that for WordPress, it's my old WordPress software. I never built that in, and because it's a little bit complicated, but that is something I need to build in the next few weeks for PageMotor, but that's coming. It's not a big deal. But that's one of the few things that I had not built before that I need to build. So there you go. So now you know why there's no nav box yet, but it is coming, and that's how it's going to work. Let's see. And Ken says, all this for only $5.99. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So there's so much, like I did a whole bunch of thinking and really interesting potential applications for even Thesis 2 for WordPress and Focus. Like there's all this unrealized potential there. It's not even worth talking about. But with PageMotor, this idea of white labeling it for everything is like the basis, the backbone for any type of app you want to make. Like this is really significant. It's really significant. You need data, like a database, and a way to have your app store and retrieve data in a way that's going to work. And you need the app, the admin side of things. So you can do whatever you want with that. You need a plugin architecture that enables you to make the admin do anything, so that it's not restrictive. And then you need a front end to display whatever to people who use the software. But that's like the main foundational components that you need to build anything in the browser. If it works in the browser, if it works on the internet, this is the core components. I really cannot believe it's 2025 and this doesn't exist. Like, I don't think it was like some stroke of genius to see this. I really don't. Like, I think if you just kind of survey the landscape, you'd come to this conclusion eventually. So I can't believe that that's not a thing, especially considering how much money's probably in that thing. But I have a sense that the reason that doesn't exist yet, or hasn't before PageMotor, is because it requires an amount of patience in building and waiting for a result that's really sexy. It requires an amount of patience that just doesn't exist in commerce. Business has no patience for what it takes to build a PageMotor, because you've got to have the vision, and then you've got to do continuous refinement to ensure that everything is like rigorously up to standard, because everything has to work in the same ways. Anything that breaks the pattern is going to break the system ultimately. And so it's just an exercise. It's sort of like a beating your head against the wall repeatedly without any reward at all. And that's just, business doesn't support that. Businesses need results now. Marketing and sales need stuff to sell now. Waiting doesn't work in business. And unfortunately, when you build something the right way, you have to wait for the reward. sort of like farming. Like you got to do the work in the spring to have the reward in the fall. That's a slow game. The way our entire society works now, it does not favor slow games at all. And I think that's the number one reason why we haven't seen this before now in websites. It's crazy, but it's here now. Vundevelt says he loves it here in Paradise. Me too, gang. I'm telling you right now, I've been working and living in Paradise, building this PageMotor website to set up for this beta. It was so great. Like I seriously did in just a few minutes. Just a few minutes. I wiped the site on Wednesday night at like 5 p.m. I wiped the database, installed PageMotor fresh, and then created those few pages of content, and then worked that night to like add the PayPal links and all that stuff. So good, so fast, just setting up. It's amazing. And like I said, I sent out that email last night. I was like, man, I feel like I kind of can't go back. I have obligations to tend to with WordPress, which I will do, but mentally, just know I'm here in Paradise and I ain't leaving. It's too good. Luan Davi says, I see Payload close to that path. Is Payload a piece of software I'm not familiar with? I'm going to look it up. Oh. Anyone else familiar with this? Oh, CMS. It's a CMS, apparently. Oh, it's a headless JS, CSS, and app framework. Well, color me skeptical, because here's the way all of these headless and JS-driven frameworks work. They rely on a mountain of JavaScript dependencies. That means whenever a component that this thing relies on is updated, it could, not in every case, it doesn't have to, it could force the platform to have to update in response to this. I can give you a equivalent example from WordPress. So if WordPress makes a change to the core, let's say it goes from version 5 to version 6 and makes some change that's considered what we call a breaking change, anything that connects to WordPress, theme, plugin, or custom integration that deals with this breaking change will have to address that breaking change through code. So like some update is going to have to be made in response to the WordPress update. It's kind of it's the nature of the beast when you have dependencies. Like themes and plugins are dependent on WordPress. So if WordPress moves, it's possible that the themes and plugins will also have to move. But WordPress is only one thing. These JavaScript frameworks have hundreds sometimes, usually dozens, oftentimes over 100. I've seen upwards of 300. Dependencies. And you are talking about a dizzying array of a bunch of crap. And the way these things are built is that if some new initiative is to be undertaken, the developers are looking for another framework to add to their framework, increasing the pile of dependencies. In my view, it is a very stupid way to build, although things can be rapidly prototyped compared to the way everything else works right now. But I will show the larger audience that the PageMotor way with AI will rapidly prototype faster than any of those things ever could. It's going to take some time to get there. It takes patience, which I just referenced, but it's going to happen. And the results are going to be a billion times better and not have these it won't be saddled with these dependencies that are ruinous. If you have enough dependencies, the dependencies rule your life. Oh, 3 of these things made changes. Now we got to go through our app and make these changes. Now we got to push these updates out onto the community. Oh, we use an NPM module to do the updates. Oh crap, it's not working for everybody. The Docker didn't update. It's just problems on problems on problems. It is no way to live. I understand that these things are popular, and if you want to look at what I'm saying and be like, he's just old and out of touch or whatever, that's fine. But I understand the actual mechanics of this stuff and the way it plays out over time. And I can tell you, this JavaScript craze is madness. I'm going to stomp these people with better solutions. And I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to do it because I really, really have a distaste for the way this stuff is taken off. And this whole headless thing too. It's an attempt to get away from technical debt that we've accrued through a bunch of bad decisions over a long time. So in the WordPress case, Matt Mullenweg wants to do a headless thing. So what this means is we keep the database layer of WordPress. We just disregard all the PHP that's ever been written to do WordPress. We attach this new JavaScript layer over top to talk to the database and pull out what we need. And we just ignore all that crap that we built up with the PHP. But like I said, the problem is that JavaScript overlay has a billion dependencies. So it's not, it is better in some ways, but you're really trading one evil of a lifetime of really crappy technical debt for another evil, which is a dependency on a mountain of trash. So, I can't wait to push back on this larger thing with a better piece of software. I'm really looking forward to that because, I hate this. I think people don't get it. I think the prevailing attitude is disgusting. Everyone's got this haughty attitude about, these JavaScript frameworks are superior. Okay, bro, let's go to battle. I'm going to crush you. Crush. I'm not here for this. Payload. What? I'm not scared of payload. I'm going to poop all over payload. PageMotor for the win. Payload has nothing. No disrespect, but it's just the truth. And I intend to prove the truth. So there you go. And then don't forget about supply chain vulnerabilities here. That's what dependencies are. Dependencies are equivalent to supply chain vulnerabilities. It's no way to live. It's no way to live. My dream is for PageMotor to be totally unencumbered. VK Wunderwelt gave the reference earlier to something I've been saying in all my videos about working in paradise. I say that, with WordPress, we've been working in a favela. And when you have a bunch of dependencies, you don't really call the shots. If the dependencies force you to make your next move, well, you didn't get to choose your actions for that day. The dependencies did. And now you're running around scrambling to catch up with whatever they did. That is no way to live. That is not paradise. That is not paradise. The PageMotor framework, the PageMotor base software, the core, the foundation, it needs to be totally unencumbered by this stuff. Totally unencumbered, nothing blocking it, nothing dictating what it must do next. The only constraints I want it to have are like PHP. PHP makes a change. PageMotor might have to make a little bit of change to make sure it's not violating any of the new PHP strict standards, that kind of thing. But that's easy enough. Like I can handle that. It's a minimum amount of dependencies. Maybe you'll have stuff where browsers kind of update some stuff in the future where some stuff needs to change, maybe some JavaScript standards or something. I don't know. But, there's a certain, like a minimum amount of that stuff that we have to accept. And I don't want to accept anything beyond that. Absolutely not. The whole dependency thing is just madness. It is madness. And I got to be honest, outside of quasi-rapid prototyping within teams and organizations, so like a subgroup at X will roll out some new visual UI thing for some initiative they have. So they've done this for a very particular purpose, some new screen like a stock ticker or something. They roll this thing out to demonstrate an idea, and they can maybe push that onto the public because it's not distributed. They are serving it. It's centralized. So it can be kind of a mess. They can kind of optimize it. It'll work. That's okay. So I can see why the JavaScript thing has been good in those kinds of very specific environments. But when we're talking about distributed software, no, it does not work. And like I said, it's just filling a gap where we want to do things faster. But really the way to do that is now going back to what I said earlier, to give AI exactly what it needs, the leverage that it needs to be able to do this stuff for us in the right way. And it's right there. It's an attainable goal. It's right there. I'm going to take us there with PageMotor. I think some savvy people are going to get wind of this and start playing with it, and they're really going to be elevating this. And I'm really looking forward to when that happens. But yeah, it's a believe it when I see it sort of situation. I understand that, but the JavaScript stuff never going to do what this is going to do. Luan Davi asks, is PageMotor running on a MySQL MariaDB? Yes. My specific implementation is a MariaDB, but it works on just a basic MySQL, any basic. So one of the requirements for the platform is that I want it to be able to run, and that's why it's written in PHP, is I want it to be able to run on any minimally equipped Apache server on the planet. This is the most ubiquitous and the most basic server setup on Earth, and PageMotor needs to work in those environments. No questions asked. So nothing special to add. So like I like Discourse forums. My forums run on Discourse, the PageMotor forums, my DIY themes forums. I like the software a lot. But it runs on Ruby on Rails. It has a mountain of JavaScript dependencies. And even though the software is really good, it's really complicated. It's really complicated. So I can't just spool up an Apache server for cheap and put Discourse on it. I've got to have a server that's equipped to do all this JavaScript package management and to run Ruby on Rails, which is an added layer beyond what a normal, basically minimally equipped Apache server would have. So therefore, Discourse is a bit of a heavy thing, whereas PageMotor is light comparatively and more accessible. That also brought me to another idea. What was that? It was a good one. Oh, hosting. Let's talk about hosting real quick. So I talked about hosting a lot, mentioned how important I think hosting is to this whole equation. It is, no question about it. I have run on boutique hosting for, I don't know, at least 7 years. That a guy I know here in Austin does. He used to run database stuff for IBM. He's one of these guys that has worked with the stuff for 35 plus years and is just like, knows the ins and outs of it, probably tinkers a little too much, but he can get stuff running really well. And he's like kind of crotchety, like sees all the problems, like, oh, I hate the way all these people deal with email management. Everybody's deliverability sucks, all that kind of stuff. He's a big time tinkerer, old school. So so my sites run on a little boutique server that he runs for me. And my sites are super fast. Super fast, super stable. I love that. But in developing PageMotor, I've had to bother him a lot because I need certain things to work a certain way. Little stuff doesn't work. Oh, this would be nice. I need this. And we're always looking at, well, what would it be like if we offered a little boutique hosting for PageMotor sites? And the idea is that the database and all the scripts that run on the server, everything's optimized to make all the PageMotor stuff work perfectly every time, and it works. Because that's really how you do it. If you know what your sites are going to be doing, you know how they're going to be running, you want your servers tuned a certain way. But if you're like an omni host, where you're hosting websites that do all sorts of different things, you can't really do this. Companies like DigitalOcean have like customized loadouts depending on the software you want to run, but even they kind of limited in how they do this. Although I do think DigitalOcean sites are super fast. If you have a small site, you want to run like a little WordPress site, they're super fast. It's great. So they do a pretty good job, but most of these other companies do not do a good job. And like WP Engine, who specializes in running WordPress websites, and they do tune their stuff for WordPress, I'm not impressed. Like I know they're probably doing certain stuff to deal with their volume, but you can run WordPress websites faster and better than they do. So that's annoying to me, right? Like if this is our wheelhouse for what we're going to be serving, the servers need to be tuned to absolutely smoke these. And so that's what we're working on. And so I'm hopeful that I will be able to offer some boutique PageMotor hosting to the beta clients. So that's something else I'm looking forward to doing. What's another perk? I'm trying to make as many perks as possible for my beta peeps. But really, there's a whole ecosystem of problems that need to be solved and addressed. And so I'm trying to hit as many of those as I can. And like I said, the hosting's a big one. But I just imagine you go enter this DNS information into your, in your GoDaddy DNS or whatever. It's going to point to this server that I've set up for you, and boom, your PageMotor's already set up. It's already screaming fast. You already have everything you need, and you had to do nothing. Sounds great. And I don't know about like limits to numbers of sites or anything like that yet. I don't have that specific of information, but I do know that I've got a super hardcore server guy tuning the stuff, and we made the PageMotor site about half a second faster this week just by optimizing a little bit of database stuff. Like I said, go look at webpagetest.org, test pagemotor.com, see what you see. I think the last time I ran some tests, I was getting page loads of like 0.533 seconds, a time to first byte, a TTFB numbers in like 0.138 seconds or something like that. Pretty darn fast for that kind of thing. So like people don't know this. We want to run HTTPS protocol, SSL, secure websites now, not HTTP, especially if you do e-com, you have to. But that adds time to every load. The extra secure socket connection adds time to the load. So like all these little things that we do that we think are like increasing or enhancing the website, actually every little thing slows it down. And so it's harder and harder to get really good numbers because of those kinds of things. But, we're cranking out pages in like half a second now, which is amazing. Admin pages under 1 second, just screaming fast. I still have to get some numbers on like the actual processing time that, so like I know that back in the day when WordPress was simpler, we were doing some testing and the processing time just to generate like the WordPress output before it could even be put on the page was like 0.2 seconds, which is pretty slow. And I think PageMotor is doing that stuff in like 0.01, 0.016 or something like that. So fractional. So anyhow, the hosting thing I think is interesting for a lot of reasons. And so I'm working on some kind of hosting package. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. I think it will. But I'll be dropping that for my beta peeps if and when that should occur. And I think I'll be able to offer something. It may not be like a long-term sustainable solution, but like, people will be able to get, you can get like 10 sites for $100 a year or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But it will be totally optimized. The database tuning is really critical. So like, this sucks. I hate to admit this. I blew up my databases on my DIY theme site, my personal site, PureSonify.com, grtcalculator.com. I blew up the database on that I blew up the file system in June. And prior to that, we had done a bunch of tuning and got those sites going so fast. They were so good. I mean, for WordPress sites, you couldn't do any better than this. And I blew them up, and he was able to get the sites working again. But the database tuning was then gone, and they're not as good as they were. So we still have to go through and do another round of tuning on those. So when it's all tuned right and all that stuff is nailed down, it's really good. And we're doing that for PageMotor. I'm militant about this now. I'm like, I want this to be as good as it can be. It's annoying to me that like it's a finite game, and when it's a finite game, you can definitely 100% optimize that game. When you are playing a finite game, if you focus on the problem long enough, you can absolutely optimize every last detail. And I'm fanatical in that way. And so that's what I'm trying to do with the PageMotor hosting, because I want to know what is the baseline? What is the fastest this can be done? Like I want the differences in speed to be due to like how geographical, the geographical constraints, like how far are we from the server that's serving this? I want that to be the speed issue, not the compilation time of the software. That needs to be basically instant. So, that's really solving that problem. So I'm looking at that too. All right. I'm getting tired, got to pee. What, anything else? Anybody got anything they want to see? I'm sorry I cannot display the plugin thing today. I've got to reconfigure Chrome and then restart it. So I'll make sure my next stream that I have that stuff ready so I can show you some code. But like I said, I did link those 2 videos up in the chat. I'm working on that documentation so we can fiddle with the AI stuff. I'm working on the documentation so the beta peeps will be able to build their first plugins. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to get a little shared journey there. It feels powerful. It feels really powerful to use the leverage that's within the system to do amazing things. So like, for example, if you build an options page in WordPress, if you have a plugin that delivers an options page, you have to have the code to make the options output in a specific place in WordPress. You have to have code that processes the information that gets saved when the user enters the options and hits the save button. You have to have code that puts those options into the database in a way that works with the database, that's compatible. You have to have code that pulls those options out of the database at the right time, sanitizes them so that they're useful, can be used in HTML output or actually used on the website in some way. And then, like, ideally, you have some tools that make it easy to like grab that output and use it. Like, there's like 4 or 5 layers there with anything like that. With the PageMotor plugin architecture, you say, hey, I want site options. You give it the array of data that's just literally just defines the options. You get the admin page. The save and stuff just works. The handling of the data just works. When you have your plugin's HTML output function, that data is just available. You say, hey, site options, what are you? And it says, here you go. And then you say output, and it does it. Like, all of that technical crap, all the stuff you'd have to do as a developer, you should not have to do that. Developers put up with so much garbage with WordPress. It is unreal. And I think some of them just don't really understand what they're doing. And they're happy and satisfied with the fact that, oh, I got this to work. And they don't really stop to think like, holy crap, I had to go through a lot of garbage to get that to work. Shouldn't this be easier? Like, that's how I think. What patterns can we leverage here so I never have to do that garbage again? I never want to think about this again. Set it once and forget it. That is the PageMotor mantra. So it is super invigorating to build these plugins and to use that leverage in that powerful way and only supply an array of data and get this dynamic. You get software in return. Software is when you have a form, a user can input information, it saves, it retrieves, you can display it. That's software. And you can make software with the PageMotor plugin architecture by just giving it an array of data. That's why AI is going to win with PageMotor. It's amazing. So anyway, that's coming. I'm going to teach everybody how to build these plugins. You're going to feel like Iron Man. Can't wait. Thank you, iSongwriter. Thank you, VK Wunderwelt. No doubt from Deutschland. Vielleicht Österreich, but probably Deutschland. All right. I think I'm going to kill the stream. I love that you guys were here. I appreciate it very much. Those of you who are part of the beta, I think there's some people that I haven't got in the doors yet because I've been yapping this whole time. So anyway, I'm going to get you guys in there as soon as possible if you're watching. And I'll see you in the forums if you're part of the beta. If you're not, maybe give it a chin scratch. I mean, hopefully you kind of understand a little more about what we're trying to do here. It's about making every step of the process, and I've tried to talk about various aspects of the process. It's about making every step of the process easier, more sensible, more patternized, providing more leverage. People need websites, and capable people need to be providing those people with websites. And we all need better tools to be able to do this better. Everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's talking about, it's like there's a new age upon us. I think we all kind of have a sense of this. And the new age, though, is sort of this vague, nebulous concept that occurs in finance and politics and this and that, in all these different ways. And so what is this new age in websites? I'm showing you what that's going to look like. Okay. PageMotor is what that's going to look like. It's going to look like this massive leverage and power that you get from giving a computer, a program, a system, a little bit of information, and it knows how to turn that information into something dynamic and useful, something that can work not just for your specific case or for your specific client, but for this industry, that industry. Works everywhere. Big pattern leverage, not just a little bit for one job. No. Big pattern leverage, big results, big time changes, a real new age. All right, gang. Thanks for being here on the stream. I love you guys. Really appreciate anyone who's taking the time to be here on the stream and be a part of the beta. It means everything. I love this journey. I'm super excited. And I can't wait to, I want to take you to some places that make you excited. Taking you to paradise, getting out of the favela. All right. And I also can't wait to see what my beta peeps build. I don't care if you think it's just a couple pages. I want to see them. All right. Fiddle around with the design options, which I kind of showed you briefly. It's a little teaser there, but do that. Fiddle with that. Let's break this thing. Let's get moving. All right. See ya in the next video. I'll see you beta people in the forums, and that's that. See you guys.